This is the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. Boom. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Rocket Blast. Welcome to this episode of the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. I'm your humble host today, John Allen. I'm sitting here talking with Wiley Wiggins, but before we get into that conversation, I want to tell all of my supporters, first of all, I love y'all. Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot to me. In the description of this episode, whether you're watching it on YouTube or listening to it on a podcast platform, there will be a couple of links that you can click into if you'd like to support my work with the Coming Home Podcast with John Allen. Do that. Help a brother out. I need a ham sandwich. Enough of that. Wiley, Seminoles forever. How you doing? Wiley Wiggins.
I'm doing fantastic, man. Good to see you, John. And also hello to all the viewers that are watching me as a guest on the John Allen podcast show. I'm very happy and humbled to be a guest on your show. And yeah, man, happy to be here. It's going to be a virtual anti-vax moment, cleansing ourselves from all the pandemic that's going on now with this dangerous vaccine. But no, man, I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
My favorite way of doing this podcast is when people can come to my home and we have maybe some coffee or something to eat, and then we settle down into my studio. And one of these days that's going to happen with you. This has been a long time coming. You and I have exchanged a lot of messages, some real funny videos. I'm going to talk about probably the most entertaining video that I have on my phone has been sent by you. I'll get into that later. But again, one of these days, now you live on the other side of the country. You're in the southwest. I'm in the southeast. But it's really not that far away. We should.
No, it's not that far away. Not to cut you off. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I live down here in Sadness. The most locals call it sadness. Because going through these treacherous, I would say 2 seasons instead of 4 seasons out of the month. We experience more rain in transition of every season where we live at over here. But yeah, you're absolutely correct, and I think going forward in the future, I would like to visit you and your family at some point in the near future and be how do I say, in-person guest, with you, and also, man.
Just make a day of it. Make a whole day of it, put the families together. Our kids are around the same age. We're both married to crazy Norwegian women.
That is correct.
We're both.
That is correct. And we love to grill as well. You're the grill king. You're the grill king of the East, and I guess I can say myself as the grill king of the South.
There you go.
So we need to parlay on some things going forward.
I'm going to be grilling for the family this evening. My wife worked a night shift. She just got home, actually, from a night shift. Well, she did a whole bunch of shopping, and she took a walk also after a night shift. But she just got home, so she's going to lay down. She's going to go to sleep. And when she gets up, she's going to have some good Black American barbecue food waiting on her when she wakes up. So that's my day.
You can't beat that.
That's my day.
Now, with your barbecue, and how do you like your meat? Well, let me rephrase this question. Do you prefer, when you buy your meats from the butcher or from the stores there locally, do you prefer to be marinated or unmarinated before you grill?
To me, buying marinated meats is kind of hit or miss over here in Norway. Sometimes if I buy it marinated from the store, it's okay, but sometimes it's really strange. I mean, I don't know what they're using. Certain things that they'll call, for example, they'll try to get real regional, and they'll call something Texas barbecue marinated. And I'm like, if they did this in Texas, there'd be a new civil war. This has nothing to do with Texas.
We're going to have to sign that declaration again, Pippin. I don't know. It's a little bit of a tang moment. No, but you're right.
It's hit or miss. It's hit or miss. I can't. So I've learned to stay away from the pre-marinated stuff, and I'll just do the best I can with the Norwegian products I can find, and I'll marinate it myself. And then I know who to blame.
Do you grill all year round, even when it's snow?
I have. Now, I didn't this past winter. I was, so messed up in with the shoulder surgery and all that stuff. And the grill that we had, I mean, it had seen its last days, so I didn't trust that grill. But for this season, we have a new grill, brand new grill. It's like twice the size of the one we had before. Much more efficient, much more effective. And my plan is to grill year round. We built out our porch on the back side of the house, and built in, or we have an overhang over that porch. So everything is all set for year-round grilling. So that's my plan.
Awesome.
That's my plan.
Man. That sounds good. Yeah, we on my end, we have the traditional terrace or deck, that we have extended, and I have my grill. It's a Weber, of course. So I like Weber products, from spurs and spices and grill products, and down to the grill brush as well. It has to be Weber. Yeah. Support Weber. But no, it's year round. I like to grill as well, as far as my meats is also from the local butcher. It's the best
way to prepare the meat, I think. It's the best way. Nothing tastes better than that.
Correct. I agree. So going forward, I like to grill year round. That's my thing. Yeah. Even when it's snow, it doesn't matter. Now
I can whip up a good pork roast though. When it comes to oven cooking, right around Christmas and New Year. I can kick ass with a good pork roast, and the key to that is long, slow cooking. I'm talking like I'll use like 6 or 7 hours in the oven, at a low temperature to get that thing ready. I can see his mouth. Look at Wiley's mouth watering, everybody.
Hey, I just got finished having bacon and eggs in a smoothie, man. So that's I'm actually going. You're making me water again. I'm not forward to do. Now, deep fry. What I do now every year. We do Thanksgiving. I know we're on the subject here of foods and grilling, but deep frying. I'm a Southern boy from Jacksonville, Florida, in the States. So
nice T-shirt.
For 13. Yeah, thank you, brother. Deep fry grilling. I'm sorry, deep frying, not deep fry grilling, but deep frying turkey every year for Thanksgiving.
That is one area of food that I have not explored personally, and I should be ashamed of myself. It's something I've been wanting to do, but I've just never bought a deep fry. I've never taken this step to actually get into it. I've eaten it before, but I've never done it myself.
Right. Well, what I done is what we did when we moved over here to Norway. I brought over my deep dish pot, or the correct terminology of it. And it's like, I would say about 18 liters. I mean, we're in a metric system over here, so gallons, you have to do the math. But it's large enough to put in a...
That's about 3 gallons, I think.
Yeah, 10 kilo turkey, or more so, I would say about a...
That's a good-sized bird.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is. So we're looking at a larger size bird, and the contents of oil is all measurements down to the T. And also you have to have a fire extinguisher on the side, just in case if there's a 9. Someone please call 911. We have to put out that flame just in case if it overboils. But to your listeners and viewers, I'm pretty sure there are more than several that we can count on our fingers and toes that have done deep frying before when it comes to turkeys, chickens, or roast beef, for example.
Now you don't do your deep frying on your nice, clean, pre-stained patio deck, do you?
You know what I do, John?
Don't you kind of have to, because it can get kind of violent. You know
what I do, John?
Yeah.
You know what I do? I do it in my kitchen. No, I'm just kidding. No, so
you're a brave man. You're a brave man.
No, what I do is I every year I try to save as much cardboard boxes as possible, and put that as a barrier on the top of the fryer, right, and the burner, and also the pot, right. So any grease that would magically overflow, it would catch it on the cardboard, and that absorbs it. So I put maybe 2 layers on top, so that way no stains will be on the deck or the terrace. And go from there. I mean, you can also do it in the grass, but it's for HMS, health, safety, and health and safety measures. I do it far away from the house as much as possible. Yeah. And have the fire extinguisher available just in case if there's an accident.
See, now my inclination would be, because I like to collect my badges of honor. So my inclination would be to go ahead and just fire that bad boy up and let the stains be. I want proof that here is a man who is doing some serious deep frying, let it stain. But the only problem with that, now I said before, we have a big patio, a big deck.
Right.
But it was Snoopy who built it. She's the one that swings the hammer. I can't do it because of my shoulder. It was just last weekend that she put the final touches on expanding and rearranging the way our patio situation is. So if I would then turn on a deep fryer and mess that up.
You would have been news at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. Oh,
you talk about
the man that lives in the Southeast. he didn't quite make it to the next day because his wife came home from work and he was deep fried. Oh,
I think we would create some new racial tensions in Norway. My wife being Samisk or a Laplander, as we would say in the States, and me being a Black American, there'd be some racial tensions after that incident. Let me tell you.
Grill lives matter.
But and I spend a lot of time making fun of Norwegian culture, Norwegian cuisine, Norwegian norms and stuff, and I make fun of it a lot. I incorporate a lot of that into my stand-up routine. It's a daily thing with me teasing my wife. But all joking aside, I still, after 19 years here in Norway, I still think it's fascinating to be here. I learn something new almost every day, whether it's a reaction to something I say or do, where they react in an unexpected way because of the culture difference. And it's not a big culture difference. It's fairly slight. But things show up all the time. How have you experienced that? And are you homesick?
Well, first and foremost, we've lived here for 13 years. My wife's Norwegian, obviously. So moving here in the beginning, it was quite a culture shock. But I think what helped me in the beginning is visiting Norway before we made the move over here.
How many times?
So I would say over the course of the years, I adapt to the culture and the culture adapts to me and I accept it. There's got to be a point in every person's life, man or woman, when you stay at a certain location in the world or you move to a certain location in the world, you do it for a reason.
Yes.
Right? We all do things for a reason.
Yep.
So for me personally to be here and live here in Norway and move and move away from my immediate family or nuclear family, should I say, for that measure, it was a challenge in the beginning and it's still a challenge every day, especially through all the things that we go through in life with family, with distance. And that's the key thing here. That's the word, distance, right? Yeah. It's for me, it was tough and it's still tough every day. But what helps me and my family is the technology factor. Speaking with them and seeing them more often through FaceTiming or Skyping, for example. So it's been roughly a challenge, but every day I get integrated. I learn the language. I remember when my wife's grandmother, when she was alive, every time we visited her and we started talking, and then she'll come out and say, "Oh, Wiley, du måste snacka på norsk." She glömmer Jordan. So to the viewers, it's a little bit of the Norwegian thing where, don't forget to speak in Norwegian. But I don't mind the language. I don't mind the culture. The only thing I do mind is when, people try to lay it on you and they want you to excel much faster on their terms. Can't be that way.
That's important.
Is the 21st century. We don't need that. No one needs that. So you adapt and you integrate at your own pace, especially when it comes to work.
It's interesting that you talk. It's interesting that you talk about integration on one's own terms. I've met my challenges here in Norway, but I like the challenges. I like the differentness. I like the constant realization that there's something new to be learned here in Norway. A lot of people come here and it's almost like they have a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that because Norwegians can have a tendency to demand. In other words, integrate at the expense of your own identity.
Correct.
And that I will not have any part of. And I understand that some people can get frustrated by that. Some immigrants can get frustrated by that. But I think the key to finding one's path here in Norway is just lose the chip on your shoulder. There's going to be people here in Norway who demand that you drop everything that has to do with your own identity and you assimilate into this thing that is all things Norwegian.
Correct.
And they're going to do that. But if you can learn to ignore that and excel despite that, one can find one's own path here in Norway. And that doesn't mean that you lose your identity. It just means you're expanding your identity. That's the way I've tried to look at it. I'm going to be myself, but I'm also going to add these good things that Norway can offer.
Right.
And the bullshit, I'm just going to stiff arm that and keep on running downfield. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're correct on that, because that's how I view things. I view things now more of, and I do. And again, I get homesick.
Sure.
And I express that to my wife and also to my mom, whenever that I speak with her virtually. But in the beginning when I moved here, it was tough with work because, of course, I don't have a trade or skill when it comes to being a architect, or a lawyer, or someone that works in governmental agencies. I'm not a Jason Bourne, so I don't have several passports where I can say, okay, here.
You don't have an alias.
Okay, I can't change my look. But no, getting integrated, I did it at my own pace. I went to Norwegian courses. I took Norwegian courses. I went to school for it. And there's a few things I had to surrender coming here based on family reunification, moving to Norway and adapting here in Norway. So you're right on that scale where you as your own person, you have your own path, right? So that's what I have learned to do. And going forward, I don't take any bullshit from anybody here. Anyhow, no. I set my standards at at an even playing field level.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm not conceited. I don't strut my shoulders around and say, I'm the big guy on campus here. That's not my thing. I don't do that.
No.
But I like to be treated with respect and in return, living here and going through.
But you can probably, or can you say that you, for the most part, are treated with respect? For the most part, people are good and kind and understanding here in Norway.
I think so.
Yeah. I agree.
And it's a little bit of a challenge when it's the nightlife, because I used to be a bouncer when I first moved here to Norway. That was my first job here, working as a bouncer.
Wow, okay.
At night times. So the nightlife was quite different here compared to the States.
No, you're a very patient man. You must be to work in that nightlife. I got I still get offers to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The way I look at the nightlife, and this is kind of, I don't know what this is. A lot of people interpret this as a certain kind of standoffishness or antisocialness for me. But as an entertainer, like when I do my stand-up or during the times when I was performing music live, I would do my thing, do my show, and then as quickly as possible, leave the premises and go back home. The nightlife, to me, sometimes it's interesting to sit back, because I don't drink. So I would always kind of lean back and just observe how crazy people would get, and it would be kind of entertaining. But the moment those people turn their focus to me, oh, here's that black dude that was just on stage. Right. He's from the States. Right. Let me go talk to him. And then all of a sudden, you've got a drunk guy with a very moist voice in your face and
in the face,
and the patronizing things when it comes to my blackness. I have so many friends that are black, and I knew this, and all that, and it's just like, okay, and I just have to go. But that's
you touch a note on that one where I can remember a few instances. I got called,
I bet you
the
did.
N-word several times.
I bet you did.
And there was consequences and repercussions on their part. So
what does that mean?
It was no damage to the face, but the authorities got involved.
Okay.
But no, I mean, the two things I always got asked in the nightlife was, are you American or are you British? Yep. So it's like, what's your name? Well, I don't feel comfortable telling you my name because I don't know you.
Right.
But nightlife here is a little different in comparison to the States, and going forward, I'm so glad I got out of it because I went through different levels here in Norway. When you excel and you integrate, you go through different levels here.
Sure.
In the beginning, I worked as a bouncer. Except after that level, worked in the airport as a CCAS controller. So it's a safety, airport safety personnel.
Yeah.
And then after that, moved on to the oil field, working at Halliburton. So it's networking that helped me get to where I am today, living here from Norway for 13 years. Networking.
I was going to say that I believe that is the key to success as an expat. The key to success here in Norway is networking. You can't isolate yourself. And believe me, I get it because, it's a series of successes and failures. To find your spot here in Norway. And I think it boils down to how you accept the failures. What do you do with that failure? Is it breaking you down or did you learn something? Are you going to be bitter from it or are you going to use that knowledge to propel yourself further on down the road? So that networking, that learning from each experience and that not being afraid to reach out and talk to people. And I used to try and play on my Americanness. Okay, you want to talk to me because I'm a Black American? Let's talk. And in that conversation, I would try to put something out there that they might latch onto that I could then benefit from, whether it was socially or professionally. So you gotta open your mouth and put yourself out there and try and navigate. Correct. Yeah, and try and navigate through all of that because it is a mixture of success and failure. Moments of frustration, deep frustration. Maybe you've been marginalized. They don't want to accept your resume from the States. They don't see the value in your experience from back home. Things like that. And
I went through that. I went through that through NAV social services here, and in the beginning with trying to find work, based on my curriculum, based on my Bachelor of Science degree in Sociology, minored in communications from, my alumni.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, we know that you have a degree, but what can you actually do here in Norway? What can you do for the Norwegian culture? So most people have counselors when you go through the social services system. And I went through the job focus course where you actually get paid to be a part of their program and they help you find work. So that's a great program. That kind of helped. It helped a little bit, John.
Okay.
But in the end, it really wasn't a good benefit because I was the one doing more of the lead work, rather than the social services helping me more.
Okay.
So it was a short-lived process with them, and I'm glad that I parted ways and went my own path of networking on my own.
How long were you here before you got that first gig, working a door at a night spot?
I would say a few months, 3 to 4 months, if I can recall.
That's a pretty quick turnover. Some people, it's a year or more before they get their first gig.
Correct, because in the beginning when we moved over here from the States, we had to live with my wife's parents, and man, I tell you that was a little bit work walking on eggshells.
We did that too. We did that too in the beginning.
It was like I couldn't go around, in my birthday suit and, do what I wanted to do, on certain things, as an adult, of course, and have fun. But, in the beginning, that was a challenge. And then we magically found a place to rent. And then from there, my wife started working in her company. She works in gas, long distance gas and heating. And in the beginning, it was a few months, and then I had to register to surrender my driver's license and also apply to go to the Norwegian school. So it was a few months before I met someone in our neighborhood, and she put me in contact with a head bouncer like it's like Roadhouse. You have a cooler, then
Yeah.
you have the bouncers, right?
Yeah.
so she put Swayze. So she put me in contact with this guy, and then we set up a mediocre interview. It was based on the nightlife and all the glitz and the glory and the sounds, going back and forth, getting to the point here. But he gave me a job, so I came in wearing a suit. We here in Norway as a bouncer, you wear a suit.
Yeah.
And that's something different in comparison to how it is in the States. It's more like G'd up,
right,
kind of thing of working here, and that's what happened with me. Starting out in the nightlife industry as working in security.
Yeah. Now, how many years did you do the door work before you moved on?
Good question. I'd say that was about a year and a half. I was working in the nightlife, and before I got into Securitas, the Cherry Police, as they call
the Cherry Police. Yeah,
this is the worldwide thing here. Where you have the 3 red dots of Securitas. Not to bash Securitas here. They're a global company.
They are, yeah.
But it was about a year and a half to 2 years. I worked in the nightlife before I entered the industry working at the airport with Securitas.
Now, I'm sure you had some challenges. I'm sure you had a mixture of fun and entertainment, but also stress and irritation. As a
nightlife,
as a bouncer, as a bouncer. Yeah, I'm talking about as a bouncer. What is? Tell me one of the most, I don't know, interesting or entertaining stories about an experience you had as a bouncer. I want to know what I'm missing, because like I said, I've gotten a lot of offers to do that, and it's never appealed to me because of I just know how people get, and I just didn't want to wouldn't want to deal with it.
It's the music, the music and the alcohol, as a combination, and also the youth, when all those factors combine, in the time that I was working, now it's probably so much different over the course of the years, but when I was working in the nightlife here several years ago, one experience I can recall is, we had a few guys that started a brawl, a ruckus, brawl on the dance floor at the establishment where I worked. And I can recall me and my colleagues, we each one had to individually grab one and take one down and escort them down. But where I worked at, there's stairs to go down, right? So that's always a challenge too, when you have to grab a patron, by his clothing or put him in a certain move, with his elbows tucked up to his face. It's a little bit of a challenge, but I remember one patron that I had to escort out. He was try to be rough and, verbal, running off at the mouth like water, like a faucet, calling me all kinds of names, from the N-word to go back to Africa, this kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, dude, first of all, you're not educated. Second of all, you're getting kicked out. Third of all, you continue going behind bars. So, I escort him out, didn't toss him out like a bag of groceries. So I sat him out. Open up the fence, and he stands there, and he's still verbal, So he called me the N-word again, and he picked up a snow, formed as a snowball, because this is the winter.
He started a snowball fight with you.
Yeah, he picked up the snowball, he formed it, right? So I'm looking at him, then he tossed it at me, right? So, reaction, so I ducked. So unfortunately, I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and I said, okay, this guy's drunk. And he called me the N-word again. So I ran after the guy, and he ran too. I just wanted to kind of scare him, put a little bit of fear. Yeah. So as he was running, there's a line of taxi cabs that's, to drive people home, right? So a taxi cab was approaching as he was running, the taxi cab put on his brakes, and as he braked the guy, he hit the hood of the car, slid over, and he hit the ground. And I ran to him, and I said, this is what you called. This is you that caused the situation. So police came over, and they stopped. Long story short, I told them what happened. This guy here, he's intoxicated. Deal with it. I got to go back to work.
Yeah.
So that's one of the instances and one of the moments working in the nightlife that I experienced here in Norway. That's one. I got several more, but
I've always thought it took a special kind of patience for that. Like I say, I see it. I would see it from the entertainer's point of view, looking out in the crowd and just seeing how crazy and some of the stupid things people were doing. It's pretty fascinating, and it can be entertaining to watch, but actually having to get involved and put your hands on those situations as a bouncer, all respect. But I couldn't have the patience for it, man.
I think, we have to move forward from that, because first of all, we have families. Second of all, we're older. And at some point we realize that this isn't the life for me, but it's a challenge because in the beginning, as an expat or moving here to the country as a regular citizen, a United States overseas civilian, as we're classified now. We're classified as United States overseas civilians now. Yeah. So moving over here to a different country or here in Norway, you have to get in where you fit in.
Absolutely,
and in the beginning, you have to work these odd jobs, right?
That's important to bring up. I think some of us get into trouble because, I talked about how at times your resume from back home in the States it carries very little weight or sometimes no weight at all here in Norway. And a lot of people will resist that. They'll push back against that instead of finding a way around it. Sometimes you have to let go of your pride and you've got this background and this education, but okay, it's not going to work here. So don't spend too much time being angry about that. You've got to, like you say, get in where you fit in. I use that term all the time. And it's important. It will make life easier for you. In other words, choose your battles.
That's right.
You and I, it sounds like you and I think a lot alike when it comes to...
We do on that kind of level playing field now. Neighbors, that way I can come over and get some sugar from you. No, but but you're totally right. I mean, my background, I'm an alumni from the Florida State University in Tallahassee, Florida, and my Bachelor of Science degree is in sociology. So being a social worker here in Norway, you first and foremost is the language. You have to understand and communicate, be verbal and write in Norwegian. So that would have been a total challenge, going forward. So being a social worker here, it's not, in my opinion, it's not the one of the most interesting things for me to partake in. That's why I went into a different path and continued to network after the social nightlife and working at the airport through Securitas and now working at Haliburton. I love the company I work for, Halliburton. I'm a technician with Halliburton, and I've been working with Halliburton now for 8 years.
So are you working? Are you working directly on the lines, or?
Yes, I'm working onshore, not offshore.
Okay.
So onshore, I'm in workshops. So it's the helping and preparation and assisting and delegating and oversighting forms, checklist, anything when it comes to onshore and preparing offshore tools to be sent offshore for personnel that works offshore to work with those tools. It's very technical, so I keep it simple.
So how did you end up there with a background in sociology? How did you end up in a job like that? That's quite the leap.
It's just networking, John. I met...
I guess, and I want you to answer, but I guess a better formulated question is, what was it about that type of work that attracted you to it?
It was an American company that's here in Norway.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, how did I come across of meeting the personnel? Oh yeah, I remember. I was working with.
You threw him out of a club.
No, it was actually with. It's like, hey man, I remember you talked me out. Can I get you a job?
They were trying to make up with you, right?
No, he. When I was working with Securitas, I was working as a fire guard as one of the exercises, because you have different places where you can be set at and work as. So I was working at a fire guard through Securitas at a location, one of Halliburton's locations, here in Norway, and working as a fire guard there, meaning that the reason I was stationed there, their fire system was not working properly.
Okay.
So I was stationed there for 2 weeks, if I can remember, and walking around and observing all the attributes that they have, the machinery and the location and the service that they provide when it comes to offshore equipment or just the mechanics of it, right? Because you have two divisions. You have production and completion and drilling and evaluation. So what I saw, I liked. And
it was just impressive, the whole mechanics of it, the way it was set up, the professionalism. I mean, Haliburton's a solid company. Haliburton knows what they're doing. So
absolutely, it's hands-on. And they're one of the oil companies that's, provides oil services throughout the world. There's several other American companies here in Norway as well, and they're global. So I put in an application, and I told one of the service coordinators there, I'm interested in working for Halliburton. What do I need to do? Okay, well, you have to, we'll see if we have a position open. You have to apply, go online, apply, and we'll attach your CV to this particular position that comes open. So if anything happens, then we'll call you. We'll see what we can schedule.
You took an extra step. A lot of people, the first thing they do is just send in an application when they see that a certain business is looking for people to work. You took a step. Right? You took a step before that by saying, "Hey, what do I have to do to work here?" And that personalized the process. And I'm sure that whoever you spoke to and asked that question, I'm sure that did something to them, because I don't know that happens too often here in Norway.
Right.
A lot of people, they're they're a little more subdued. And I'm not saying we as Americans are arrogant, but we're not afraid to reach out and voice our desire to have something or to get something done. And I'm sure that outgoing aspect of your personality probably rang some bells in these people's heads, so that when your application came through, they could put a face and a voice to that application. Am I right?
Correct.
You took an extra step.
That was correct. And it was the right time. I was in the right place at the right time.
Yep.
And I think that helped me out a lot, because at that department, there were several personnel that were from different countries. You had Egypt, and one guy from Colombia, one guy from Italy, and Norwegians, of course. So it was kind of strange in their facility. Norwegians was on this side of the building, and the foreigners was on the other side of the building. So, but everyone worked together. As a good function.
What was the working language? Did they speak Norwegian, or was it in English? It was in English. Okay.
It was English, but of course, here in Norway, it's Norwegian, right? So foreigners have to adapt to that, and you have to do it to the best of your capabilities. But
so in that international job, they expected everyone to speak Norwegian. As
it being an American company, based here in Norway, the most common language, of course, is English, right? So, but of course, you have personnel that work for Halliburton. They are Norwegian. Yeah. They speak Norwegian, and of course, they speak English as well. So you have to have the barrier of communication has to be a common playing field. So
I see. Yeah.
Some foreigners that are people, not foreigners. I hate people from other countries that live here in Norway that are live-ins here or expats that live here. So you have to understand, Norwegians have to understand that English is the most common language that is spoken. So along the lines, you adapt to it as a person that living here out of the country where Norwegian is spoken here. But at the end of the day, meetings are conducted in English because it's an American company. You have citizens that live in the States that work for Halliburton. You have the scheduled meeting, and it's virtual, of course. Town hall meetings now are virtual due to the pandemic. Yeah. So it's in English. It's an American company. And I love working for Halliburton.
I couldn't imagine it being a bad work environment there. Because when you say Halliburton, I think tradition, I think solid company, I think well paid.
Roll Big Red. Big Red, we always see this video every year. Halliburton is celebrating 100 years of service, over 100 years of service now. So it's a strong name.
It is.
Halliburton has been around for a long time. Yeah. And, there's a lot of plants or regions that Halliburton covers, and provide services to customers, globally. So it's a solid, for me, in my opinion, it's a solid company to work for. There are several other oil companies that are out of there, but for some reason I'm sticking to Halliburton, and I think they are a reputable company that provides excellent services to their customers, and it's a good way of learning. I guess every company has a good way of learning how it is in the oil industry, right? But
sure.
How I started, I put my passion and the drive to move forward of becoming a key entity with the company. So I continue going and excelling my skills with the company. And so I love it.
There was a lot of people, when we lived up north, there were a lot of people in our little village. And village is the proper term. Is way up north. There's hardly anything else going on up there. But tons of guys worked in the oil business. And it would be this thing where, they're gone for a month and then off for a couple of months.
Offshore,
and then so you would see your friend, the friends that trained at my gym and things like that would disappear for a couple of months, or you'd hear them talking about they got to catch the plane from Tromsø because they're going down to, wherever, Stavanger, Bergen, wherever. And most of these guys were offshore, but some of them worked in. I can remember guys talking about they had an apartment in Sandnes because they would work from there, and some of them work. They may be colleagues of yours. Some of them probably worked at Halliburton.
Yeah. Oh, Wiley, I know that guy. Oh, yeah, Bjorn, yeah, I know him too. Yeah, okay, we crossed paths. No, it's like that.
Yeah, it is like that sometimes. Yeah, and these guys. It was such a contrast because up there it was kind of, we're talking about up in Finnmark in Nord-Troms, and places where people they weren't quite poor, but they were living a simple life. Yep. But then all of a sudden here's this guy, and then you find out what you see his house, you see the car he drives, and you find out what he's doing. Well, he's working in the oil business, whether it's some sort of a technician or an engineer. Or just one of the, they used to call them the grease guys, the ones that would go offshore. The ones that would go offshore. And so it was a good career. There was a time where before I got started and what I ended up doing, I was thinking, maybe I should check out this stuff in the oil fields or offshore or something. But I never made anything of it. But it was something that crossed my mind because I saw how much money people were making, and they said it was everybody talked about what a good work environment it was. Good teamwork.
I would say, working offshore, it's definitely one of the key attributes that you could be successful in. Yeah. Offshore life, I've never experienced it. When I first started with Halliburton, I worked in wireline and perforating. And my status was a offshore operator assistant. So unfortunately, our department shut down due to the economic boom that was in 2006, if you can remember.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, not 2006, because I was in the States then. I'm sorry. This was in
2008, wasn't it?
2013, going on 2000, in between 2013 and 2014, where there was an economic boom that transpired here in Norway, and the oil field was kind of not doing so well. So our department shut down operations, and I got relocated to a different department in perforating because it's wireline and perforating. So I worked in the perforating portion of the department. So it was tough because I wanted to travel offshore, and unfortunately that stopped. But onshore, I don't mind, either or going forward, because a job is a job.
A job is a job, yeah.
Right. As long as you provide the services and show up every day and do your expectations, what you're supposed to do, then going forward, you do what you can.
Yeah.
And I think going forward, I see myself continuing working with Halliburton as I excel in different levels, because you start in one position, you go through competency, you have to know what you're doing.
There's a lot of internal education opportunities, aren't there?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely internal and a little bit of external as well. Okay. So you go through the level of competencies and you get tested on how to assemble tools or equipment. And you have a path. So everybody has gaps that they have to close. If you're in the oil industry, you know it's about gaps. So you have to close gaps on each level, and at each position that you are designated, what you're classified as whether operator assistant or tool tech specialist or professional specialist, whatever that they terminology, going towards engineer, going towards service coordinator. So there's different paths that you can excel at. It's just up to you as the individual to own it and go forward in it.
Well, thinking about when you started then, how much learning did you have to consume before you were effective? And how does that work? Did they give you time to learn how to, because again, you had a completely different background.
Right.
So
correct. Yeah,
how much internal learning did you get? How much internal schooling did you have to go through before you were an effective employee?
Well, as an effect, every day is a learning experience. So you're not going to be able to cram everything in one quarter. Like I said, I've been employed as an employee with Halliburton for 8 years now. So there's a lot of internal technical data when it comes to the competency that you have to learn. So you have that path that you set forward. Your supervisors, they set a certain goal for you to be established and to be educated on. So corporate, you have classes or courses, not classes, but courses that you have to continuously take for each level that you close a gap on, right? So it's always hands-on learning. It's always sitting in the computer lab learning, taking courses, right?
Constant.
And being alert, right? Yeah. Being in tune with everything. So offshore is completely different. I've never been offshore, so I can't tell you what the experience is working offshore. I'm not sure if it's like where you can get a long fishing rod and, fish over offshore and catch a big fish. But no, onshore life is totally completely different than offshore life.
Yeah.
And for me,
you come home every day.
Right. Right.
That right there is probably the biggest difference.
Right. Especially when you have family. I mean, there's offshore personnel that have families too. But I can't tell you what their lifestyle is whenever that they come from offshore or being away from their families at that short hitch.
Well, I can tell you again, living up north and being in a community, a little village where tons of guys worked offshore. Those are some of the happiest people I've ever seen here in Norway.
No doubt.
Because the money is incredible. Like I said, these guys live like they're some sort of corporate executive. They have so much money, beautiful houses, cars, and all that stuff, and all the little toys.
It's like a risky business moment,
Right. But I think what made them the happiest was that balance where they'd be some of them had like only 2 weeks away, but some of them had a month away, but then they would get 2 months at home. And I'm thinking that month away can be rough, but having 2 months at home when you're making your salary is so doggone high, but you're going to have periods where you're home for a couple of months, 6 weeks at a time. And it just did something with their happiness and their satisfaction with life. Those guys were so relaxed and happy.
And it's also a balance in between, your spouse, for your wife, if you're the offshore mother or you're the offshore father, it's just that balance that both of them have with each other. You talk about it, you go through it. Okay, this is what, and it's even tougher if both the employees are offshore personnel, right?
Yeah.
So that's a totally different subject, a totally different topic of what they go through.
Right.
Are they happy? We don't know.
Yeah.
So, but that the quality of life is, the money's there and it's there to be earned because there's so many fine little perks that are there working offshore that you get paid for.
Yeah.
Like if you have to wait to get picked up to travel back onshore from offshore.
Yeah, some of the happiest moments in those guys' careers, they said, was if there was a storm, a hurricane or something, and they would get stuck. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, did they get paid?
It's like a mini vacation. It's like, oh yes, I'm going to kick my feet up. I'm going to relax. This is what I'm going to do. Oh yes, I'm going to just sit and chill, and this is going to be my thing of waiting for that helicopter to come pick me up. Can you pass me those peanuts? No, but it's like, dude, it's like that's the best, one of the best things of working offshore is the perks.
Yeah.
Waiting for it to get picked up. If there's a storm, it's like paradise.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's a good career choice, whether it's onshore or offshore. It's a good career choice. Like I said, I was looking into that at one point when I first got here.
Well, it's never too late,
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's too late. It's too late. Stop being nice, man. It's too late.
But no, I would say going forward, there's always things can change with the blink of an eye.
Sure.
There's always different paths that you can take working in the industry. So, tomorrow could be something different. My wife and I, we have two kids. Two beautiful kids with each other, two boys, and they're very active. So, when the time is ready for them to go to university, if they want to travel back to the States, go to university there or go to university here, with our jobs, if they want to go back to the States, who knows how things will be if we would move over. But the beautiful thing is with Halliburton being global, it will be a good thing, possibly.
That could be a path. That could be a path to getting back, yeah.
Correct. But the challenge would be for my wife to find work there as well, but I don't think that would be an issue.
Let me ask you something now about family life, if I can get a little personal. And I'll share with I'll share with you as well to lighten the load. But
go for it.
How old are your kids now?
Our oldest is 13. He'll be 14 November, and our youngest is 9. He just turned 9 this May.
Roughly the same age as ours. 15. Our daughter is 15. Our son is 13. How do you? What are your thoughts about your children's Americanness, their blackness, and how little or how much they are aware of that and conscious of it? Is that something that you think about?
Well, what I try to instill to them every day, every hour, every minute is that they are brought into the world to make a difference, right? So it's not.
That alone is a beautiful statement. That alone is a beautiful approach to the question I asked. That alone covers everything. Yeah.
So to elaborate a little bit more, do I every day say, okay, you're American, you're an American and Norwegian citizen, right? I think what's more patriotic about it is every time that they celebrate their birthday, I bring out the bells and whistles. I bring out the American flag and the Norwegian flag, and fly them at the same time inside the house and outside the house. So that way they know that, okay, it's my birthday. I'm celebrating it. And but at that age where they are now, they're very young. They're getting it, cause at a certain point in our age and everybody's age, everyone's age, when you get it, how life is, you understand life. Yeah. But it's up to us as parents, me and my wife, to instill into them of what they are, who they are. Yeah. Right. So that they understand it and get it. But I don't think that our oldest is there yet of getting it, of knowing what it is, the difference between being Norwegian and American. Right. Mm-hmm. So they know that they have a dual citizenship. They know that they are biracial. Right, because obviously my wife's, she's white, she's Norwegian. I'm American, black. So, bald head as well. If I put on a turtleneck, I might look like I roll on deodorant.
I should have, to cement our brotherhood, I just a couple of days ago shaved off my goatee. I should have we got the bald head and goatee crew right here.
That's the thing. I have to keep it. I have to keep this going. My wife, she said, if I cut off, I look like a different person. Well, I'm still the same guy. Underneath. But the kids, they. I think what helps as well is the communication with my family back home more often, so that way they know their history. They know that they have a family that's Black Americans or African Americans, and also on the other side it's white Americans, or I'm sorry, not white Americans, Norwegians, right?
Yeah.
So there's two different spectrums there all the time. Whenever there's family gatherings, there's two different spectrums there all the time. So for me living here, I have to be on that spectrum on the Norwegian side.
Yeah.
And when it comes to on the American side, I'm so glad, that whenever that we get a chance to go back home, if we ever get there anytime soon with the pandemic, hopefully this
God
December.
willing.
Right, no doubt. So, but they going forward, John, I think they're still learning, and at some point they'll get it that A, they have two citizenships. B, they're biracial, Black and Black American and Norwegian American, and C, going forward they're male, right? They're making a difference of growing up in the world, living where they are now overseas.
That's important about teaching them that they're here to make a difference. I try to put that into my kids' mind and into their mindset as well. They're different. They have a different background, and I try to show them that there's nothing negative about that, because some people are, if they haven't already, at some point they're going to be met with some negativity about their background, and I tell them I'm preparing them for that by telling them that their background is an asset. The diversity in their family tree is an asset.
Yes. And for me, it's even more of a challenge because my father, at some point we should touch base on that. Because you're a former police officer, and my father was a police officer as well in Jacksonville, Florida. That's my hometown city. And God rest his soul, my father passed on in 2002. He had a heart attack.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And as him being, their grandfather, he doesn't have, on my side of the family, he doesn't have a grandfather to speak with on that, English American, playing field. So that's a little bit tough,
It's a big hole in his learning experience,
Correct.
It's a mentorship that needs to be filled, if you know what I mean.
Correct. Because I'm a splitting image of my father. I don't have any pictures that's close by, but I'm a splitting image of my father. And, every time I FaceTime with my mom or other family members, oh, Wiley, you look just like your daddy as you grow up, and you're so big and cuddly.
How often do you talk with them back home?
I'm sorry, again?
How often do you talk with your family back home?
Man, I call my mom, I would say maybe if I can, at least 3 times throughout the week. And with the virtualness of FaceTiming, we try to do it at least 2 times a week. Yeah. At least 2 times a week. It depends on our schedules.
That's about how often I speak with my mother. Right. I just spoke with my sister yesterday, and if you're listening, Meredith, I love you. She's my sister, of course, but she's also been like a friend. I mean, we have inside jokes where we don't even have to say anything. It's just a look.
It's there,
Like a lot of the things that I tease Snoopy about are based on things that my sister and I used to joke about when we were kids. So it's real funny. It's cute whenever we're home. And my sister and I and Snoopy might be sitting there, and Snoopy will say something, maybe because of her accent or whatever. And my sister and I will just look at each other and start laughing. And Snoopy's like, what? And it's like, no, you won't get it. Never mind.
Because you're from Ohio, right?
Ohio, yeah.
Right. And well, how is the dialect? Because I never met any Ohioans.
Ohio's,
you're the first, actually.
Ohio's a really weird place. Where I grew up, a little town called Norton. Actually, back then it was called the Village of Norton. It was a real small, very rural place. Very rural. People. Very rural. Yeah. Not that kind of village. Although that kind of village is okay. That kind of village is okay.
No doubt, man.
It was a very rural place, and the makeup of that area. You could say like the Northeast Ohio area, both urban and suburban and rural. There's a lot of people who I can remember going to school with kids, and a lot of their parents had Southern accents because there's a lot of people who had moved from Virginia and West Virginia to that area of Ohio for the jobs. The rubber industry, Goodyear, Firestone, Goodrich out of Akron, Ohio.
Rubber.
Yeah, the rubber industry. So a lot of these people had Southern accents. So if you listen to people, I don't know, my age and a little bit younger and a little bit older, you're going to think that they're a Southern hillbilly, the way they talk. When I don't hear it in my own voice now, but if I listen to like my sister, especially my mother, they sound like, well, it's a little bit different with my family because they came from not Virginia and West Virginia, but from Tennessee and Kentucky. My mother's mother and father and that generation. So I'm only the second generation away from, scratching in the dirt in the hills of Kentucky. Right. So that's that. You have this weird mix of good old normal Midwest accent, which is kind of bland and not really noticeable, and this deeply rooted Southern influence. So Ohio is just kind of, it's kind of weird like that.
Your family, does your family, mostly your sister, do they recognize your dialect if you still?
Absolutely.
Have you, has it changed or has it stayed the same?
No, my dialect has absolutely changed. And I think it is because I really had to change the way I speak and speak more straightforward for Snoopy's benefit when we met. Because at that time her English is pretty good now. I tease her about her accent, but it's pretty good right now. But when we met, it was pretty bad. And
I had to speak much slower.
Yes.
When
little things like that, speaking slower and dropping a little bit of the slang. I couldn't say, how y'all doing? I had to be, how are you guys? Little things like that so that I could be understood by Snoopy.
To be honest with you, John, I still keep that Southern slang. I'm from Florida.
Well, you can't help it. You can't help it.
Of course, but I whenever I enter the room, I set the tone, and that's my thing. And visiting my wife's family, how y'all doing? I still keep that, because that's something that I was brought into the world of experiencing. So that's my culture. And I think for my wife's family, they love the culture that I bring to them every day that I meet them.
Well, but so when I first met Snoopy, I had to clean up the way I talk. But then I had to adjust the way I spoke so I could make myself understood.
It's all good. I know what you mean.
Yeah, but now when the kids came, when we got our kids, and I only speak English with my kids. I never have spoken a word of Norwegian with them, and I never will. I insist that they answer me in English as well.
Damn it.
Yeah, Well, and I see the payoff. But you know what? But I see the payoff because when they speak English with me, or when they speak English with family back home, it's my clean, not my adjusted Ohio dialect, but it's my clean Ohio dialect. So
it's your proper vernacular and also your dialect of how you deliver to them, and that's normal. You should.
Exactly. So Colin, I throw slang in now where I had to remove it when I first met Snoopy. Now it's back in, and that's mostly for the kids' benefit. And if Snoopy gets confused, I just love it, and I just put it. I put it into my stand-up comedy act. When she's confused by what I say, it's just new material for my stand-up act.
Because when we speak the slang, right? That look,
I love it.
It's like, okay, you didn't get it. You could tell, like our better half families, the in-laws, they're like, okay, what did you say? I'm trying to process it, and I'm like, okay, I know you don't get it, so I just politically correct, give it to you. But I think it's good that we use the slang. Because, in Norwegian, they have slang as well.
Sure,
every language, they have their own slang.
Sure.
But I think the difficult part about slang is with our offspring is if we speak it, and they hear that, then they think it's okay to use it while they're at school. and also writing
now
as well.
That has been a problem. Well, it's not a problem anymore, but it was an issue at one point when they were younger, where I'm like, oh gosh, you know, I gotta. I'm going to speak my dialect, my accent or whatever, my Ohio thing, but I also have to teach them, you know, you don't say ain't, it's not going to, or you know, or whatever.
Right.
I had to teach them that part as well. But again, the payoff has been immense. Our son, who is in 8th grade now, this year, he's finished with high school English. 2 years ahead of time. Yeah, 2 years ahead of time. He's done with it now.
What you guys do? Did you send them to summer school every year? Say, hey, you're going to go to English every year, or
what we did, and our daughter finished a year ahead of time. She's going on to VID, going to VID
Grammar School.
That would be the second stage of high school, I guess.
Right.
What we did was we made a point when they were younger, like already maybe around in 4th or 5th grade, to tell the teachers that these children of ours speak English at home. And they speak it fluently, and we want the opportunity for our children to show you people at the school that they are advanced. We met a little bit of pushback, but I talk about Snoopy all the time. She's mean. She's evil. So that pushback didn't last very long, and our children were able to demonstrate through if it wasn't direct testing, it was just through, you know, verbal and written assignments that, hey, these kids are advanced, and they both got pushed up 2 grades in their English.
Correct.
And that was, I want to say it was in 4th grade for our son and in 5th grade for our daughter. So the whole way they've been a couple of years ahead. Yeah, you know, so that's just something that we insisted upon. Our children can do it. Let them show that they can.
Right. And, you know, I would say the secondary education, before getting there, our oldest son now, he is going on 9th grade next year. Class. He's going on 9th grade next year. So what I've noticed is that they have this for deepening.
Yes. Yeah.
It's in-depth level of the course or the subject. Like they have this in English, in Norwegian,
advanced English,
and also the other languages like French, Spanish as well. So as a key focal point for them. So I think for me, helping out him or helping the kids out is for me continuously, like you do, also speak English all the time. If there's something that's straight to the point where you want to kick it out in Norwegian, I do that. You know, so
I'm more strict than that. I speak zero Norwegian to them.
You speak zero Norwegian now.
None to the, and I jump on them if they say the slightest word Norwegian to me. I'm like sucking the teeth, roll the eyes, and turn away. And they get it. They get it. There's a culture thing. There's a culture thing right there.
That is. I try to always give our sons the benefit of the doubt, because I know that.
So I'm an asshole, in other words.
Right, no doubt. Yeah, Dad's being a jerk. Mom, Dad's being a jerk. He's talking too fast, and he's speaking in a certain tongue. You know, he's hypnotized with something. You know, he's bringing out the Baptist sin from church.
Amen.
You know, so it's like that happens every now and then in the household. You know, my background. I have my siblings. I have an older brother and a younger sister. So I'm the middle child, obviously, and as they say here in Norway, drittny mitten. So I don't see myself as the shit in the middle. But no, man. Living here and with our kids, it's a little bit of a challenge here and there, because I like, of course, I love for my kids to excel and do whatever that they want to do as their passion, right?
Yeah.
If it's in school, or if it's in activities or sports. With me growing up, it was, I loved the band, man. When I was growing up in high school, I played a tuba.
Did you? Okay.
So bass was the thing, right? Bass was my word, you know, growing up and being in high school. And my father, you know, he convinced me to play sports and get out of the band. You don't want to be in the band, you know, play an instrument, play sports. So I gave up the band. I wish I would have stayed with it because I probably would have been an awesome bassist,
I was going to ask you, do you play any instruments now today?
I don't play. I don't play any instruments now. I probably could still play the tuba. There's some notes. It's still memory. You just have to, get back in tune with in tune with the instrument. Yeah. But no instrument playing. Sports was my thing. I played in high school. I played baseball, track and field. I threw the discus and shot put, and also played football. You were a linebacker,
right?
I was a linebacker. Yeah, I was a linebacker. I played linebacker, defensive end in high school, and in college, university. Starting out, when I graduated from high school, I went to the University of South Carolina, and things didn't go well there. Wasn't really happy of how life was going, so I transferred from University of South Carolina back down to Florida.
You didn't like their mascot name. That's what it was, wasn't it?
Gamecocks. I was like, go Cox, fight, win, kick ass. No.
Those cocks are kicking ass.
It's like, hey, that's the slogan. That's their chant. Every time in the stadium, it's like, go Cox. I'm like, is this a X-rated term that's going on here? But no, I had to get out of South Carolina. I went back down to Florida, went to Tallahassee Community College, got my associate in arts degree, transferred over to Florida State, and got acclimated at Florida State. And I was a walk-on. I became a walk-on.
Oh, were you? Okay.
At Florida State University. No scholarship, man. So I was a walk-on.
Okay.
And, I didn't get any, first string playing time when I was at the Florida State University. I remember I got my bell rung on kickoff. On kickoff, I got the opportunity to be on the kickoff team. Uh-huh. And it was against Maryland. This was a homecoming game. I remember it like yesterday. And this was a homecoming game. And, I got my bell rung, man. I was like, it was just one of those things where you just everything goes like so dizzy in your head. And I lost my balance, fell down. I was like, I embarrassed myself, because my parents were there at the homecoming game. I was like, what am I going to do? I got the smelling salt. You came back too. So it was like one of the most weirdest experiences in my life, but actually the best experience and weirdest experience of my life, playing at a Division I football university. Yeah. At the Florida State University, and I was happy and glad to be a part of that, and having former players that I'm still in contact with every now and then, and recognizing that I got the acclimates, I got my rings in the safe here, I got plaques, going around. So I have it close by, but I don't think it's my thing to to show it.
There's nothing like that experience of being 18, 19 years old and on a Division I college football team. I played at Ohio University.
We touched base on that one. Yeah.
Talking about the I don't know, that harsh reality of college football versus high school football. I remember when we played against LSU.
Oh, the Tigers.
And it was a home game. I didn't play that game, but I remember how big and super athletic they all were, and it was like, how is this possible? I don't remember what the score was at that game, but they humiliated us, and I'm probably just blocking out the score. But looking at those boys, those young men, and seeing the otherworldly level of athleticism and size, the speed, the quickness, the muscularity. And I'm just like, what have I gotten myself into?
It's totally different, man.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Different conferences, different divisions.
Yeah.
We have in college, it's 3 divisions and different and the sizes is so much, it's impeccable. You get offensive linemen that pancake you.
Hello.
It's tough,
I was lucky though. Because how tall are you? You're.
I'm 6'1".
Okay, I'm 5'8".
6'1" and 6'1", and my playing weight was 245, 250.
Okay.
So now I'm around 295, 300 on a consistent basis after a good meal, 305, but it fluctuates.
I'm 5'8" after a good night's sleep. and I played and I was a running back. So I was one of those short, really muscular, compact, and quick people. So I was so lucky because of that. I never got my bell rung. I was always able to juke just enough to where it would soften the blow.
Yeah, you deliver the blow.
But, but just that experience, that step up from high school, from being one of the best in the state to being just another guy on the field in college, man.
Totally,
it was
totally. It's different, For me, as a walk-on, it was more of a challenge because you have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Right. It's like that movie Rudy, where he made it, and that was based on a true story. Actually,
it is. Yeah,
where he made the team of the University Notre Dame. Where he made it. He was successful. And he was a short guy.
Yeah.
And he produced. He was at almost every position on the field.
Yeah.
So being a walk-on at any university, at any level, any division, any conference, when you step yourself, you put yourself out there as a walk-on, that means you're trying to prove yourself. And when you make it on the team, any level, Division 1, 2, or 3, you make it on that team, you prove your point, right? And you excel. You got the scholarship. So you're going your own way. That's very important.
It's very important, and it's such a personal accomplishment. We had a guy. We called him Grandpa, and I cannot remember his name, but he was a walk-on, and he was 28 years old.
What?
Now that's old.
28?
28.
Wow.
He had been in the military. I think he had been in the Army, and he got discharged, a medical discharge. Something happened with his hip.
Yeah.
And then he rehabbed himself up from that injury, got in perfect shape. He was a running back too. We called him Grandpa, 28 years old.
Grandpa, yeah.
And wow. His journey, and then going back at that age, going back to an academic life, as well as being a walk-on, and just all of the adversity that this guy met. If I could ever remember his name, I would definitely reach out to him and get him.
It's all good, man.
If
everything happens for a reason, he might be listening.
He might be.
At any given point, you can come across your path, because that's how the premonition part of it. Things happen for a reason. It's always destiny. So if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, right?
Yeah.
It'll happen.
There's another guy, another former teammate at Ohio University I want to reach out to. You're familiar with MMA, and of course there's the UFC, but then there's also Bellator, right?
Bellator, okay.
Yeah, you've never heard of Bellator?
Never heard of Bellator.
Wow, okay. Bellator, Bellator. Yeah, it's one of the major MMA organizations.
Wow.
The founder of that is an alum from Ohio University, a guy named Bjorn Rebney. I think his parents are Swedish. His first name was Bjorn. His last name is
Bjorn,
Rebney.
Like for everyone listening, Bjorn Bear. Yeah.
But he went on to found Bellator, one of the top MMA organizations internationally.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah. I mean, because that's MMA, I'm not really in tune to, but I've recognized it and hear about it. But that's something that's
a heck of a sport.
It's always good to be historic about, to be in tune to. So, but on a professional level, John, did you ever try to think about going professional when you played at
I was on that
university?
I was on that path to going professional. I've spoken about this on my podcast before, but I quit after my second year. Just to put a little bit of my family background and family history out there, my parents were having trouble and they ended up getting divorced. But at that time, in my ignorant and untested young mind, I thought that I could do something to help out with that family situation.
Correct.
And it was tearing me up. I tried to talk to my coaches about it. What was it? This was about halfway through my first year. I tried to talk with my coaches about how my family back home was having trouble. I was real preoccupied with that. My grades weren't what they were supposed to be. My focus on the football field wasn't even close to what it was supposed to be. And I asked them if I could be allowed to go home. Let me go home, work this out somehow. This wasn't in the season. The season was already over. So it just would have been making arrangements for me to keep up academically. But I felt that could have been done. And I got no support from my coaches. And I think I made my decision then that this isn't going to work.
That was there.
This just isn't going to work. So I hung out for that first year. And then roughly halfway through the second year, I just, I couldn't take it, so I quit. Yeah. I walked away from a full scholarship. Yeah. And the interesting thing is that when I like I said, when I approached my coaches and they told me that there's nothing they could do, basically they told me quit being a pussy in very blunt terms, quit being a pussy and
man up.
Yeah, man up. What do you expect us to do? And to me, the manning up what would have been going back home and just seeing what I could do. I know now as an adult, I can't. That's my parents' business. I can't get involved in their divorce. What could I do?
Personal affairs.
Right. Yeah. And I wish to God that one of my coaches would have told me that back then. But again, their response was a very blunt, man up, stop being a pussy. There's nothing we can do. Mm-hmm. Now get out of my office. And that was the response I got, basically. It's pretty despicable, honestly. Yeah. That's not the response you should give. What was I? An 18-year-old young man at that point. That's not the response because it took a lot for me to approach my coach and tell him what was going on, tell him how I felt about it, and ask for help in finding a solution. That took a lot for me to do. Yeah. And to get rejected like that, I still feel the sting of that still today. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I was on the track to being something in football. That was no joke. Yeah, so but I turned my back on all of that because I didn't have the proper. Yeah, I'll say it. I'll blame it. I'll put some blame, of course, on myself. I'll put most of the blame on myself for being so immature as to where I thought that I could help a situation that I couldn't help. But I put also some blame on the guidance or the lack of guidance from my coaches.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you think the mindset, right? It's every player has a certain mindset where you have to be mentally and physically there with it 100%. Yeah. And if there's problems, that personal problems that are at home or with each individual player, coaches, they're like advisors, right? Coaches are supposed to be like the parent, the second parent that should help out at
I just didn't get that.
Any level.
And I just didn't get that guidance at all. Yeah. And it's a shame. Yeah. And my Snoopy jokes with me all about it. Yeah, you dummy. We could have so much more money now if you would have. Just one season as a pro. That's all I needed, she said. But and I don't like to go back and say shoulda, woulda, coulda.
No.
And when I look at where I am now, I mean, I've been blessed. I've been blessed 1,000 times over.
No doubt.
And everything is going well. But I will say this. Looking at what I've been able to do with my powerlifting, which is another display of a different type of athleticism, and looking at my progress at that time back then as a football player, if I would have stuck it out, I do believe that there's a strong possibility that I would have had some level of success as a professional. I was pretty good. And the thing is what I was going to say is what happened is when I got that stiff arm from my coaches, and I pretty much made up my mind immediately that I wasn't going to last at that university. I was going to give up that scholarship. Right. That's when my training and my performance really kicked in. Oh man, because then I was like, okay, I'm going to show them. I'm really going to show them that they're not only going to lose a scholarship athlete, but they're going to lose a scholarship athlete that could have done something for this team. Red shirt program, and I would have come out of that and I'm like, I'm going to show them now. And I did. My performance, both off-season training and training during the season was off the charts because I was mad and I had something to prove now.
That's right. Yeah, chip on the shoulder.
Chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, chip on the shoulder. Yeah, for me, playing in Florida State after I graduated, before I graduated, actually, I'm sorry, I tore my ACL my senior year playing with Florida State. So I think that was my decision after I tore my ACL, was not to continue with playing football.
Wow. That's a terrible injury.
Coming back from it is never 100%. Even having the best rehabilitation and the best surgeon to perform the surgery.
I've seen powerlifters come back from a torn ACL, but that's a different movement. But as a football player, and you've got all that lateral movement and stuff, you're pretty much
up
done.
And down, left and right. It's different. So I mean, I graduated, went down a different avenue, and continued living in Tallahassee and putting a little bit of my personal history out there. After I graduated from university, I continued living in Tallahassee, Florida, and became employed with a nutrition company, working as an operations warehouse manager. And while working for that company, that year was 2001, 2002, and that was the year of my father. Obviously, he passed away in 2002. So I remember like yesterday, that morning where I got the call from before I went into work, I got a call from my brother and that morning, and he said that, "Hey man, Dad had collapsed and we don't know what happened. So I just wanted to give you a call and let you know what's going on." So I said, "Okay, I hope everything is okay." So I told him to give me a call back.
That's a rough message to get.
Absolutely. He called me back like 5 minutes, if I can remember, 5-10 minutes after we talked. And he said, "Dad didn't make it."
Oh man.
Dad had a heart attack. So that right there, John, I was 25 years old, and that really changed. I didn't know it at the time, but now I realize that changed my life.
Absolutely.
To lose my father at a young age. He was 66 years old. He was a police officer in the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for 40 plus years. And that year, he was going to retire.
Oh man.
In November. So of that year when he passed on, he passed away on the day before my 25th birthday. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So it was November 8th, 2002, where he passed on to the afterlife. So that after that happened, man, I tell you, it was a different movement and a different moment for me and my family, and I remember I still remember like yesterday, all the little moments of driving from Tallahassee to Jacksonville to reconcile with my family when he passed on. So it was a tough moment because it's like when I arrived, there was a tunnel that I was focused on to getting to my mother, and on the outside of it was all his colleagues of police officers being there. So as I had approached her, we embraced. And it was a changing moment for me personally.
Absolutely.
And also my mom. My mom was a former school teacher. She retired in 2005. She worked for Lake Forest Elementary School. She taught third grade. So not having her better half or her confidant in her life at that time, it was quite an experience. But over the years, we all lose. We're in life. Not everyone is designed to live forever.
Yeah.
So that's something that every year I try to tell my boys that, we're not designed to live forever. And, from my point of view, your grandfather, he looks over you every step of the way. Spiritually, he's there. So he's watching down.
I can identify with that.
Right, as you continue to grow and develop.
Yes.
So me, after I finished university playing for them and graduated, I went down a different avenue. I still love watching American football.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I have footballs here, and we try to catch around and play with all the time, me and the boys. And I always wait for the NFL season to come around to watch it. So going forward, I do miss the sport, but I always tied into life of having apparel and memorabilia around to always remind me of where I came from. And if our sons would like to partake of that in the future, then they're more than willing to do that as well. So, I miss my father very
what
much.
A loss.
His name was
What a loss.
Wilbert Wiggins Sr. He was 66 when he passed on. So
Wilbert Wiggins Sr. May he rest in peace.
Wilbert Wiggins Sr. A little history. My sister name is Dolores Evangeline Wiggins. My mom is Dolores Chandler Wiggins. My brother is Wilbert Wiggins Jr. So, we're the Wiggins, man. We're the Wiggins family, the Wiggins clan. So it's reunions are always. It's always a blessing to rekindle and visit my family whenever the time is right.
When's the last time you were home?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
So hopefully this year we'll be able to make it. I have been 100% vaccinated.
Have you? Good.
My wife, she's getting her first shot next week. But here's the thing, man. Now I've been informed that the vaccination passports or certificates is not acceptable traveling outside of the country at the moment.
Yeah, isn't that strange?
It is strange. So I don't know how the government's going to open it, lift that up, because our country is green at the moment.
Yeah, I get my second vaccine on the 22nd. Snoopy's had hers. There's still no sign of the kids getting it anytime soon. But I guess I've kind of just taken a deep breath, let it out, and I've just thrown away any thoughts of getting back home this year. I'm terribly homesick. I want to go home. But
it's that balance that you miss, right? It completes you.
Yeah,
it completes you.
I'm finding out more and more often. I said earlier, I have a lot of telephone contact with my sister and my mother, and I'm finding out that while I always enjoy the conversations with them, I feel like a mini depression when I hang up with them. Yeah. And that just tells me that the homesickness is growing. And the cure for that is just to get back home, and then I'll be fine. But I need to go home. But it's not. I just can't see it happening now with
well,
Corona.
You have to, in my opinion, you have to kind of keep pounding that wall of acceptance of saying, okay, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you should always try to encourage yourself to say, okay, I think it can happen, and hopefully it will happen, so that way I can see family in person, because that's my goal is to travel to be with my family for Christmas, right? And also have the kids with me. So my wife said, well, if all goes the way that it is, you can just travel by yourself. I did that once before.
I've done that twice. Last time was in 2019. I went by myself. And it's fun, but I miss something. I want the
right.
Yeah, you want to show off the kids.
The whole gang is not there, right?
Yeah, you want to show off the kids. You want your wife to experience part of your home life from before and all that stuff. And
again. So it's quite different when all the family is not together, traveling together. Yeah, you do, as a father, you do have peace of mind. Say, oh, okay, I don't have to buy this. Oh, we don't have to get the bigger vehicle this time.
Because I gotta tell you, Snoopy would drive me crazy with her shopping. She's like a child. If a 2-year-old were to get a all expenses paid trip to the North Pole to Santa Claus's workshop, that's what Snoopy is like every time we're in the States and she's going to go shopping with the big eyes and looking around with the shelves and everything.
No doubt, man.
It drives me nuts.
The glitz and the glamour of shopping. My wife is like that too, but she's lived in the States once before and she's been there several times. Yeah. So she's quite humble with the experience, right? So shopping is not like, okay, I give you the card, you go splurge. It's not that kind of thing. We're very
she just about killed me. She just about ruined our relationship. I joke with her about this all the time. When the first time we got to hang out after we started dating, this was before we were married. Yeah. So this was like in 2000 something like that.
How long you guys been married?
Since 2001.
Okay.
So we lived in the States for about 18 months before we moved here after we got married.
Yeah.
But so we were visiting some friends that she had up in Minnesota, the Mall of America. We went to the Mall of
Underground.
We went to the Mall of America, and she spent like I don't know. I don't want to exaggerate, but it was over $1,000, and it was all on my credit card. I'm like, what is this woman? In one day, Wiley. She did it in one day. I got a picture of her, an old picture of her. She was wearing this outfit, and she had this hat that she bought, and she had like 4 or 5 big garbage bag looking bags of stuff that she bought. I'm like, is this woman that no, but I tease her about that, and it wasn't all my money, but the woman knows how to shop.
It's all good, man. Well, well, you want how's the saying go, John? Every time, happy wife, happy life. But also happy husband should get some loving. No,
but isn't it? Here's one thing. I got in contact with a friend, a high school friend. This other girl that I knew in high school. This is back in 2012, 2013, the early days of Facebook. Okay. And she's, and part of getting back together, and she finds out I live here in Norway and I'm married with Snoopy. And she says, "Oh, I always knew you would marry a white girl." And I wrote, but listen, I wrote back. I said, "I didn't marry a white girl. I married a Norwegian woman."
There you go.
Difference.
Right.
Difference. And wouldn't you say that in all seriousness, Norwegian women are different than American women? It's very subtle.
Yeah, they are.
And I'm not saying better or worse. I'm not trying to diss American women, but Norwegian women are different. There's a certain spunk, a certain.
Yeah, there's a different perk there as well. I'm with my wife. She lived in the States. She had a project there. Been there several times. Her family's traveled to different countries and also to the States several times. So well-rounded, right? And the culture factor, the perspective.
There's a worldliness that's present in most of them. Yeah.
Correct. Open, the level of openness. So, I hit the mark on mine. I hit the ball out of the park, should I say. I met my wife in 2005. So, and I lived in New York at the time. A little bit of history on my behalf, where I graduated from university. After I graduated from New York University, then I relocated to high school. I'm backwards here. From university, I'm sorry, not high school. Graduated from university. Then at some point, I relocated up to New York.
Yeah.
And lived up to New York for a hot minute. And while living in New York, not university, high school, sorry. So 2005. So as I lived in New York and lived there, I came across my wife, and I was working at Social Bar and Lounge.
Okay.
And working as a bouncer there too, in security. So, and I met her. She was speaking English at the time, right? And I said, "Okay, what's your name?" "No, my name's Higgy." And we kind of hit out. Higgy, that's not a American name. So I was like, "Where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from Norway." I said, "Norway? Oh, wow, shucks, that's different. So what brought you here to America? Because this is how we get that here in Norway. Oh, right. What brought you here to Norway?"
Yeah.
So we met, and she was visiting New York with friends from Peoria, Illinois. She worked for a printing press company, and she had a installation job in Peoria, Illinois, at the Journal Star. And when we met, it was like one of those moments where, okay, maybe I need to continue talking with this woman. She seems quite interested. She's a foreigner.
Yeah.
So we exchanged numbers. Long story short, we continued talking with each other. She said, "I'm here for a short period of time, a couple of days, and traveling back to Peoria, and then eventually going back to Germany, and where she lived at." So long story short, we developed a long distance relationship and maintained communication with each other via. At that time, it was Skype, and communicating on cell phone, doing video chats, and we developed a online relationship and visit each other here and there. So yeah, man, we hit it off, and that long distance relationship just became a short distance relationship where we formed a bond, and at some point I decided to give up everything I was doing in the States and in New York, and I moved over to Norway.
Was it kind of, did it come as a surprise to you that you actually took that step, or did
that leap of faith? Yeah. At the time I was besides myself, I guess, because at the time I was love struck, where I guess I knew I met the woman of my dreams.
Yeah.
Right. I was living the dream and met the woman of my dreams. So I took the leap of faith, man, and I decided to live with this woman, and I didn't care about, how I provide for myself at that time. The thought was there, I was like, okay, shit, I'm going to make money here. Yeah. Okay. Love is there. Devotion is there. She's a foreigner. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to do it. So
isn't it something though? Isn't it something though how when you meet that one and
mm-hmm.
everybody's been in love before, but when you meet that one, okay, I've been in love before,
right.
But this is different, and then it can actually lead to you taking such a dramatic leap of faith.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Because at that time I kind of had an understanding that this meant something, because spiritually it's kind of weird, man. Because after my father passed on, when I was at a young age, it just kind of opened up this kind of telepathical wavelength of thought process of being more fine-tuned with life.
Yes.
Right? Because those kind of things, when you lose someone that's close to you, or someone, and you lose it at a certain age, that somehow messes with your spirituality.
Well, yeah, you find yourself searching for a way to fill that spiritual gap that now is there, because that person of influence is gone. Right.
Right. Correct.
So it opens you up. It opens you up to those signals about what's right for you and what isn't. Yeah.
Totally. And I was blown away with that as I came to realizing that those moments where I knew what I had to do. I knew what was going on in life, and I knew that meeting her was the right thing to do and to go for it. At that time, she didn't know. She probably thought, okay, this is just probably a guy that, just wants to get to know me or like a one night stand kind of thing. But it didn't turn out to be that way.
Yeah.
I mean, like now, 15 years later, this is looking back on it was the perfect choice, and I love the fact that I took that leap of faith of giving up everything that I had going for me, and going with the woman of my dreams that I've been.
So you still feel the blessing of that then?
I do. I still feel the blessing, and I think I have no regrets of giving up everything I was doing in the States to move overseas to live the life. To live the life that I'm living at now, being happily married, having two beautiful kids, right? You know what I mean? In a beautiful country. Don't get me wrong. Norway is not a negative place where some people think that it is.
There are some negative aspects to it, but all in all, this is a wonderful place to live.
Totally.
And like I say, that for me, the adventure of living here is still there. 19 years later. I still feel like I'm in the middle of an adventure. So there's a lot to be said for that. But these women,
and like a little fairy tale as well. Say, oh, is Norway? I got asked the question once: Is Norway like Disney World over there? I say, man, it's quite amusing. It feels like you're in a park all the time, and you go to a concession stand to get whatever that you want to get. But at the end of the day, the amusement park is always open 24 hours. So yeah, in a kind of way, it's a land of a great opportunity, but there's some negativity there.
I think Norway brings things out of us. I'm sure you can agree with this. Norway probably brought something out of you that wouldn't have been brought out if you hadn't come here. For guys like us, we have our accomplishments already. We have our standards already. And then when we rip ourselves up from that and then come here to Norway, we want to maintain and or build upon whatever foundation we created in the States. So there's motivation from day one.
Correct.
But it's amplified because we are in a situation, like you said, that those thoughts about, well, where am I going to get my money from now?
Right.
That is a very motivating factor for a person who has the tools to do something with it.
Totally.
So it pushes you into overdrive in a sense that you probably wouldn't experience if you had stayed home. That's the way it was for me anyway. I
agree. And moving here, my wife, her personal contacts and, old high school friends that she went to high school with, when we came over here, it's like, okay, man, friends, how am I going to meet people?
Yes.
Are there any other Americans living here?
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't know that until you find out. And dude, it's like a lot of Americans that live here in this country. So where we're living at now, one of my wife's high school friends that she went with, Rebecca Vedland, she's married to a Norwegian guy, Reginald Thomas. And me and Reggie and I are close friends. I don't know if you met Reggie yet, but
just online a little bit. He's actually been someone who I want to contact to have on for a conversation.
I think I'm going to pay it forward. I'm going to pay it forward after it's in. Pay it forward, and you should get in contact with Reggie. And Reggie needs to be a part of your program as well. I think he would love to talk to you and be a part of your success.
He seems like an interesting guy.
I met Reggie. We got put in contact with each other through our wives, and I remember the first time I met Reggie. Man, Reggie was working with ESS, International School of Stavanger, and he came up in his truck, man, his van, and I saw this black guy, a brother, in the van. I'm politically speaking, sorry. And I said, that must be Reggie right there. I walked up, I said, hey man, where's Willie? And it's like we hit it off like right away. It's like, okay, this is another brother, from the States, and it's like, okay, dude, right when we embrace, like with the handshake and the hug, it's like our friendship started right there.
You're gonna make me start crying, man, because that is the kind of stuff that it's so hard to put words on in a way that people will understand. Some people get offended when I say this, but I mean, we have our swing, we have our swagger, we have our way of saying things, and I'm talking about we who are Black Americans. Mm-hmm. And that is an aspect of my homesickness that I really feel. Mm-hmm. And that's a big reason why I asked you to come on, just the opportunity, and I've had Dwayne Moorhead. I don't know if you know him, another Black American here. There's some Black American women I've had on, and it's, above and beyond the Blackness, there's always been something about you people who interest me. I want to talk to people who I'm interested in, but to have the opportunity, even though it's long distance like this by video, to speak with another Black American, it lifts me up. It brings me forward.
Yeah. And I'm happy and I'm thrilled to be a part of that process. Dwayne, actually, a few years ago, this was at a Kevin Hart. I don't know if Dwayne's listening, but he probably will be. But at Kevin Hart was here. He came to Norway in Oslo, and he was on stage doing his stand-up act. And Dwayne was there, but I didn't get a chance to meet Dwayne at the time because he said, I wrote on my status, I'm at Ball Hall Arena, and I'm watching the Kevin Hart thing. And Dwayne came up. He said, I'm here too. Where you sitting at? So at the time, we couldn't move around, man, because the security's like, security! You can't move. You got to stay where you are. You can't go to different locations. So, okay. But long story short, Dwayne was there. So I didn't get a chance to meet Dwayne at that time. But, when you get a chance, John, to meet other people of color, here in Norway and see where they come from, their personal history, their background, that ties into making everything much complete for you
absolutely
as a person, right? And I'm just saying it for you. For me, it's the same way, because the more people I meet, the better my personality becomes, and I get more wiser, every course of the year. But it's still fulfilling. But the only thing that I miss in this whole equation, that sometimes it gets me a little bit depressed too, a little bit of anxiety as well, is not having my nuclear family experiencing the same feelings that I experience every day in and day out, right? It's like
explain that.
I hit the wall, man, when I was working with Halliburton. I hit the wall one year, a few years ago, where depression and anxiety hit me, right? And I didn't know how to deal with it, right? So I just hit a wall, and I just got into this deep state of depression where I didn't know how to get out of it. And my body just shut down. My mind went to a different dimension, right? And I didn't know how to deal with it. I was so emotional and didn't know what to do, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to travel back home at some point. I don't know how my life was going to turn out to be. I miss my mom, miss my sister, my brother. And of course, I have people that my immediate family, my kids and my wife here, but that's a port valve of saying the distance is setting in, kicking in, and I don't know how to handle it. So I seeked help, and
how long ago was this?
This is around 2014, 2015.
Okay. Yeah.
Somewhere around. This was before I had my arterial fibrillation as well, because I was hospitalized with that.
Whoa.
So this
wow,
was
man. I didn't know that.
That's another thing. Yeah. But the depression hit me, man, and I got so depressed to the point where, the thoughts was there with anxiety, depression of, suicidal every now and then. I'm like, okay, should I try to take my life? Or at this point, no, it was so confusing. It was cloudy at the time. And I'm really glad. And I would say not glad, but more fortunate and happy that I sought help. I seeked help. I got professional help, and I got put on medication at that time, that I was in a depressive state. So I would say anybody that's battling depression, when you have these thoughts, you have to seek help, and that's something that people that you take when you stop doing your normal day-to-day activities or being in a certain location where you are not in, and you're not in your comfort zone, and you're taken out of that comfort zone, and you miss home. You get homesick all the time, and you get depressed. You have anxiety. You have to seek the help, because if you don't seek the help, if you don't have people in their corner to help, it will lead you to a negative dimension where you will never be able to get back.
I got to say amen. And I got to tell you, Wiley, I love you even more now. I think that first of all, most men aren't going to be that open about their struggles with their mental health, with depression and anxiety. Most men are not going to speak on it. But for those men who do speak on it, it needs to be known that that is a great service. For other men, I know there's somebody listening or watching right now. There's another dude out there who is depressed, who has anxiety, who maybe they don't value their life the way they should. And just the fact that you say that, Wiley, is helping somebody. Guaranteed. I've made it my business to be very open about how I've been depressed. I lost my son in November of 2019, heroin overdose, and it crushed me. And I have yet to rise up from that. And I tell people that, and I'm open about it. And it helps me to be open about it, because it would be harder to hide it. Because my friends, people who know me, will certainly see a change in me. And if I just hold it all inside, I'm going to start losing friends. They're going to think it's something against them. So it benefits me to speak out about it, because that opens the door for unexpected help to come in.
As a personal question, do you find it therapeutic to handle it on your own terms rather than having professional
I've tried. At the moment, I have no professional guidance. I tried that, though, and it just didn't work. That's probably going back, again, to share another piece of my own background, that's probably going back to my childhood and having a very authoritarian father, to where I got conditioned to just, there's a thread here. Growing up with an authoritarian father who wasn't very receptive to any kind of communication on a heartfelt level, and then being met the way I was met by my football coaches in a moment of crisis where I needed help. And now to this period after I lost my son, trying to communicate with someone on a professional level who, as far as I know, because of their professional capacity, was willing to hear me, but I didn't feel comfortable speaking with them because of that prior conditioning.
Right.
So I'm in a position now where the therapeutic effect is coming from my podcast. I don't know if I've told you this before. I've said it on other episodes. The whole reason for this podcast is for me to find a way up and out of depression and that feeling of loss for my son. Snoopy, as much as I tease her, God bless that woman, because it was her who pushed me into starting this podcast. She had been after me for quite some time to try and get into radio or podcasting. And she came with the idea, and we talked about it, where this podcast can be an avenue for me to reach out to people who I think I can learn something from. People who motivate me, people who might say something to give me a new purpose, which would then lift me out of being depressed over the loss of my son. So that's the whole purpose of this podcast.
And not only that, it's the grieving
Yes.
part, the grieving portion of it as well, because your podcast, every person that you encounter and you have as a guest that you get to know, and their personal history, their background, it's kind of like it's creating more headspace, positive headspace.
Absolutely.
For you.
You sharing that part of your background about you being a survivor of a moment of deeper depression over a period of time.
Yeah.
That right there.
It was there.
Yeah, and that right there is therapeutic for me to hear.
It was there, John. I mean, I to be honest with you, I thought about, and that at one point I thought about taking my life as well, in the shower. It was like one of those things I expressed to my wife, shower cord going wrapped around the neck. Yeah. But, it was tough because it was tough for her. But at the moment with me, I was battling this mental thing, mental health thing where I was just trapped and I didn't know how to get out of it. So I was very fortunate to seek the help and sit down and talk to someone and to seek professional help that of that mental standpoint that I was going through at that state, because it's a disease, right?
It is. Yeah.
And if you cannot battle it and approach it and seek professional help for it, it will eat you up. It's just like we're battling a virus now, right? And this is something that happens with our health. Mental health is almost the same kind of disease where it battles your brain activity, right? So it's not a virus, but it's a disease, and it affects your health. So in everything that we do, where we try to increase our positive thinking, positive health, whether it's just exercising or being in the right place at the right time, having positive people surrounding people that we can have in our lives to change for the better. Yeah. That makes it even much better. But the key focal thing is, when it comes to the homesickness part, since we're here, is to mentally think that it will be okay at some point, because they are there and they accept the fact that we are where we are, right? Yeah. I mean, I got asked the question when I visited my mom by myself and the family was here, how long you guys going to live in Norway? And I miss my grandkids. And, Higgy's mother and father have the best of both worlds over there. Yeah. And I said, that was tough to hear. Yeah. And, that anxiety kind of build up, a little bit to the mind, that hypothalamus, it goes up in that depression. Yeah. It's like, okay, don't put me there, Mom. Don't put me there, because I've been there and I had to battle that depression. She knows. She knows what I went through. Yeah. So every person that's listening to your podcast, if you guys are out there, right, battling something that's there in your life where you don't know how to get out of, and you're just hitting that wall and you're depressed and you're homesick, find different avenues of how you can deal with it. If it's professionally, if you can't afford it, seek help from the state, social services, to where they can help you guys get to where you need to be mentally positive and physically positive, because mental health, you need to be
And
you need to be positive going forward if you have a family here.
And don't try to tackle it on your own. Like you said, the key word is you've got to find help. And there's so many avenues that you can take advantage of, especially here in Norway, because you don't have to worry about the cost of it for the most part.
And what's even tougher challenge is battling the pandemic and battling mental health at the same time. That's an even more difficult process, because I have not met anyone yet that's battling both, where, for example, some of their family members have been that passed on due to the pandemic or with the virus, and also in addition to battling depression. So we don't know how some of these people, John, have encountered where they lost loved ones. Yes. And also battling depression at the same token. So
I think there's a lot of people out there suffering very, very quietly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll put another challenge out there. You challenge people to reach out and get help. I also challenge people to open their eyes and look around. Look at your family members and friends. You probably are going to come across somebody who's suffering silently. And maybe if you approach them and tell them what you see and ask them a couple of questions, it might motivate that person to get some help where they have been suffering silently and alone before.
Correct. And you won't know. I mean, one of my good friends, he hit that wall as well, and he reached out to me and he asked me how did I do it, and I helped him as well by pointing him into the right direction of where he needs to go, and
That's
also continue to talk, and surround yourself with positive energy. So it's a challenge, but it's up to the individual as well, John, to want to accept it, to realize that they are battling something that they have never battled before in their life. So
it's not
going
easy.
Going forward, every one of your listeners that's out there, you guys, if you're battling it, seek help. It'll go a long way.
Such a beautiful statement, man. I knew you were a loving brother. I could tell, and it comes out when you share your own story about depression, and it comes out when you share your suggestion for how people can handle it, and it comes out when you talk about how you helped your friend and you pointed them in the right direction. And this is what we need more of.
We do.
It's so easy to just hold that stuff in. It's so easy. I know. It's happened to all of us where we get a little suspicion that a friend or a family member isn't doing well. And we're like, they'll be all right, or they have other people to help. You know what? I challenge people, if you have that thought, if you have that inkling that somebody needs some help, just help them. Just reach out to them. And they may tell you to go get lost, or they may tell you everything's fine, and you have to take their word for it if that's what they say. But make that effort to reach out and see what you can do for somebody.
And the biggest challenge is there's only so much help that you can give someone, because you have your own personal things that you do, because it's that energy, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can devote so much time and energy into someone or into something where it's like you get so drained from it. It's like, okay, I have to take a step back from that.
There comes a point,
and then get it back, that energy back. So you personally, if you battle that and going forward and you witness someone else that's going through that challenge, don't put all of yourself out there, because it will drain the energy out of you.
You have to pace yourself. Yeah.
Right. So there's there's only so much a way that you can help someone, but you can set the tone for that particular individual, man or woman, to find their path.
You can set the table.
Getting the tool.
Yeah, you can set the table, but you can't force anybody to sit down and eat. But you can set the table for them. Yeah,
that's it. Absolutely, in a nutshell. So again, I'm very relieved and happy where I am now, mentally and physically, because it was a challenge, right? And just going forward of realizing that I was in that state. And looking back on it damn, I was there, right?
Yeah.
So now,
but that's empowering, isn't it? That's empowering, isn't it? You've been there.
Empowering.
You've been there, but now here you are. There's some strength in that. There's some growth in that.
Because I look back on it and I realize that oh man, I can't believe that I went through that. Right? I went through that phase. So it's a different phase, and I'm 43 now. So I'll be 44 in November. So, my key focal point now is focusing on health.
Yeah.
And a little bit of a personal thing. Me and my wife, we're going through this diet, man. This.
Yeah, you told me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I told you about that.
You're not grilling. You're not like grilling tomatoes and stuff like that now. Are you still grilling?
Hell no. I'm still grilling the same meats that I love, right? And eating. Well, now that the 4-week challenge is over, it's more cautious of the intake, right? It's being wise of. How do I say? What's the term? Choose your carbs wisely, right?
Yes.
Of what you're intaking, and also minimize the sugar intake. Because as we get older, especially as Black males,
Yes.
heart disease, high blood pressure, it's a killer. So it's good to be in tune with what you're ingesting into your diet. I lost quite a bit from the spare tire that I had going around my waist. So minimizing the sugar intake is very key.
That will do a lot alone. That alone will do a lot. Mm-hmm. Just watching your carbs and cutting out the extra sugar. I got I got really, really motivated to, my whole thing is I've had all these shoulder surgeries, and I had an unexpected neck surgery now in, in March. So it's really been cutting into my training. I'm sorry, say again.
Your eating habits, or your training habits?
My eating habits to a certain extent, but in a large degree, my training habits. I haven't been able to powerlift the way I want to, which of course then when I don't eat properly, I'm going to feel that improper eating even more because I'm not training properly. And it really hit home when, you talk about spare tire and all that stuff. I saw myself on TV and I'm like, who is that guy? I gotta distance myself from that guy. So that was about three weeks ago. But I'll tell you, and so I saw that on TV about 3 weeks ago, and then it took me a week of self-disgust, self-hatred. Yeah. But for the last 2 weeks, I've really I've started exercising as good as I can with these, operations and stuff. But I've really done something with the way I'm eating. And I'd say probably in the last 10 to 12 days, I bet I've lost maybe close to 10 kilos already. So, and I'm older than you. I'm 52.
Right.
So that
You're
health.
52, John. You don't look 52, John. John, you look like you're about 41.
That's Mama's fault. That's Mama's side of the family. There's some pretty people over there. I'm the ugly duckling, okay? But there's some pretty people on that side of the family.
John, you know what they say? Black don't crack.
Black don't crack. But you know what? That whole age thing, I think that age thing is such a it's more of a mental thing than a physical thing. If you live young, you will feel young and you will look young. Man. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Even if you do grow gray hairs every here and there, it happens.
I have gray hair. If I let this grow out, you'd see a lot of gray. My goatee is almost entirely white, actually.
Here's the thing. I got friends of ours, family friends, right? God bless her. Trina wants me to grow my hair out. She would like for me to grow an afro.
My wife wants that
because
too.
Back here is like a moon, right? it won't go out. It's the funniest thing is like the movie Coming to America, right? Yeah. We have the guy with the soul glow, and I sent her the picture. So you want me to grow my hair out and put some Afro sheen or some kind of soul glow spray to make it curly? Yes, I would like to see that. I said, I can't grow my hair like that. I'm 40 plus years old. It won't happen. So you have to accept what you have.
You have to take what you got. But the bald head is a good thing. I mean, it's so maintenance free.
Man.
It's so maintenance free. Because I tried that thing for a while, trying to work a fade with Norwegian barbers. It just wasn't working. Now, this is 19 years ago. But now, of course, especially in the cities, you're going to find someone who can cut a good fade on a black man.
Right.
But back then, so I'm like, so I just started shaving it off, and that's what I'm going.
Zero, man. Keeping it zero, keeping it clean as zero. If you have to have that intervention with yourself, John, I had the intervention with myself. I realized that, okay, I can't lift the world anymore, and now with the pandemic going on, I got my second shot, but I got to wait at least 10 days for the vaccine to kick in to be fully vaccinated, so that way I can get back into the gym and then do what I can. So now it's just training with a kettlebell at home. So as you're in your 50s, right? I'm in my 40s. So you have a little bit more maturity there, right? So everything is for us, we have very good genetics. I wouldn't say we have the perfect genetics, but us as black males, we have very good genetics where we maintain our size.
Yes,
without
absolutely.
the extra,
without the
extra help.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? So a lot of people think that, okay, God, he's so big. Are you on something? I had the same thing in university when I was playing ball. It's like, are you on steroids? No, test me. They did the blood test, urine test. Oh, negative. Oh, there you go. There you go. So now living here, so large, it's like I'm 130 plus kilos or 290 plus pounds. It's like, oh, you must be on something. You have to be taking something. No, it's just good genetics.
Yeah, and also a lot of people don't recognize the work ethic.
Right.
I set the Norwegian unequipped squat record at the age of 50.
I saw that.
At the age of 50, and online, there were so many people here in Norway who were immediately going to the steroid thing and growth hormone and all that stuff. I'm like, hey, I train. I was on the U.S. national team. I have an obligation. Forget about what I feel morally and ethically. I have an obligation to the team to train clean. And anybody that wants to test me can do so. But people don't recognize the work ethic. What I'm trying to get to is to do what I did at the age of 50 requires extreme focus, extreme discipline. And some people just can't identify with that. They can't identify with the discipline and focus that's required to do something like that. They automatically think that you can only do things like that. You can only be as big as Wiley Wiggins if you use something. You can only lift what John lifted. Yeah, you have to have that artificial enhancement. People's mindset automatically goes to that. But we know what hard work is. We know what hard work is.
It is, and plus for me at work, I'm going to share a little bit of a secret here. It takes a lot of hard work for me to work every day whenever I get changed into my my work gear, is that I put on this sweatband, man, like this thing to go around the stomach, it's kind of like a girdle, but it's not like a girdle. It's like, to lose weight or to sweat more.
Yeah.
Because, our organs, man, if there's a lot of fat that accumulates around the organs, your belly will expand. That's why you have these pot bellies all the time. Your liver will expand.
That's called skinny fat. That's skinny fat. That's what skinny people can still die of with a heart attack because they still have fat around their organs.
Correct. So, I accepted the challenge, with my wife. And it was a 4-week thing, and I saw excellent results from it. In the beginning, it was tough because my brain was telling me, oh, this side is, you need carbs. Back here, the side of the brain, oh, you need that sugar. But, after you accept it's kind of like, I guess, the Dr. Atkins diet, where you accept the diet itself and realize what you minimize. And minimize those strange starches that you don't need in your diet. Also the sugars as well. So going forward, I'm choosing those carbs wisely. I mean, I admit I had to have a pizza last night because, so did I. Every now and then, you do need the carbs. But when you're in the phase for a particular diet where you want to lose a certain particular amount of weight or tone up or this, that, and other, you have to have an intervention with yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
So for me personally, I saw the gain for 4 weeks. I lost in 4 weeks, I lost 4 kilos, which is about 2 pounds, 2.5 pounds. Yeah. In 4 weeks by just minimizing the carbs and having less sugar in the diet, staying off those, the how do I say the canal bola? What is that? Cinnamon rolls.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Laying off those as well. So, but it's up to you as the individual to have the intervention with yourself.
And that's what it takes. And for me, that intervention was seeing that on TV. Like I said, am I the guy who is going to be the powerlifting champion, or am I going to be that short guy who's too chubby on TV? Which guy am I going to be? So there was intervention. And like I say, in about 10, 12 days, I've lost, I bet it's at least 5 kilos. I'm sorry, at least 10 kilos right now. 5 pounds.
I can say this to going forward, we had this personal conversation, on the phone. And after I congratulate you and touch base with you about the third your third encounter of being, visual on Norwegian news here.
And that was a beautiful gesture by you, by the way. That really, I carried that phone call with me for a long time. That's one of the sweetest things that anybody's ever done for me, to call me.
It's all good,
like you
man.
did. So thank you.
The gratitude is there. Gratitude is paying it forward, no doubt. So for you to go forward, I think, that right there is going to open more doors for you, as we talked about it before, and to touch base on the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yes.
And also racial injustices that, Black Americans or people of color that are experiencing, not only in the States, but globally,
yes.
Based on racial tensions, for you to be recognized living here in Norway of your background, of being a former police officer and experiencing those things, in history, and you see yourself now where you are now, it's up to you to make that change of looking better if you want
absolutely,
to. Right?
Absolutely.
Because I think now going forward, as we touch base as well, I think we're going to see more people here locally are going to see more of you, John. And
that's interesting that you say that, because things are starting to happen. In the last 2 weeks, I've appeared on, after that TV portrait that they did, I've appeared on four podcasts or radio programs already, just in the last couple of weeks. So things are happening, and I started to think about that. I need to put and this is first and foremost for myself. I need to get my health back. I've had way too many operations and way too few years, and it's affected my health physically and mentally, and I need to get out of that.
Yeah.
So that's the catalyst for me making a change for myself. And then also in the process of getting exposure like that, I want to also put out a good example, because I talk about health a lot. I am a health person. I've done what I've done in powerlifting, and I'm going to do more in powerlifting. And I got to walk the walk. I can't just talk the talk. I got to walk the walk. So the catalyst for the change is there. And seeing that short, chubby guy on TV, I gotta bury that guy. I gotta bury him.
Yeah, well, I think as a personal question, I know you're going through the phase now with the rebuilding of your body. Rebuilding of your body. Listen to the mind, listen to the body. Yeah. With the surgeries, with operations, do you think that could be a calling, not a wake-up call, but a calling for you to kind of take a step back from the powerlifting, but still be a part of it, right?
You see, I'm shaking my head before you're even finished with the sentence.
I know.
I'm far from finished with powerlifting. First of all, and this is important for people to know, because I think it'll head off a lot of, and I'm not saying I'm not willing to discuss with you, but a lot of people come to me and they'll say straightforward, well, why don't you quit powerlifting? And my answer to that is my shoulder injury has nothing to do with powerlifting. And here's why. It was when I had traveled home to compete in the the U.S. National Championships in powerlifting. This was in 2016. I went home to do this. And it was my last heavy bench day in preparation for that powerlifting competition. And some knucklehead at the gym, acting all silly, banged into the bar when I was benching. I think I had like 400 and something pounds on the bar.
Yeah.
And when he hit that bar, it twisted the living daylights out of my shoulder. And it turns out that twist was an actual tear in my supraspinatus. So, yeah, it has to do with powerlifting in a sense, but it wasn't powerlifting that injured my shoulder.
Accident.
Freak accident. And my adjustment has been that ever since that initial injury, I haven't trained bench. I'm finished with training bench. Now, of course, in powerlifting, it's a 3-lift competition: squat, bench, and deadlift. So what I do is I go and I squat records for squat. In other words, the highest squat in every competition, but the smallest bench, because you have to do all 3 lifts. So what I do is I lift the bar and the 2 collar pins, which is 25 kilos. 1 lift for bench and I'm done. So I guess I don't want people to think that I'm a meathead who is trying to train and compete through an injury, because I'm not. I'm totally finished with bench, and I have been since that initial injury. And every operation that has come since then has been, for example, when that supraspinatus was gone, it then put extra stress on my infraspinatus, which is a band of tendon that goes around the side and to the front.
The deltoid? Mm-hmm.
Under the deltoid.
Under the deltoid.
In the cuff.
Okay.
But that has become so degenerated because it's been doing the work that the supraspinatus is supposed to have been done. Now my infraspinatus is totally gone. So in order to fix that, they took a graft of an Achilles tendon and put that in my shoulder to replace those tendons and everything that's gone. The problem now is because it's a foreign body of tissue, I haven't been able to neurologically get in touch with that Achilles tendon. So I don't know what's showing up on the camera, but you see this arm I'm always resting it because I can't lift it. I have no. You can't
go up above shoulder level.
Can't do it.
Right.
You see this? That's the highest I can go.
Really?
Yep. That's it.
So,
I have
So how will you be able to, like, with the therapeutic, the therapeutical standpoint, how will you be able to? Thank you, hon. You don't have to go down. You can stand up and walk by.
Is that the second best wife in Norway there?
Yeah, no doubt.
The second best.
It's like, there's a podcast moment going. Let me sneak around the floor and then go into the pantry.
She can come through.
This is my wife.
Hello, hello. Second best wife in Norway.
Thank you for the water, Haliburton.
There you go.
No, so
you were asking about therapeutic.
How therapeutically wise, how are you going to be able to get through this challenge with the recuperation of the therapy going forward?
I've been first of all, I'm very blessed to have a home gym. I have everything I need for my physical therapy and to train powerlifting when that time comes. I have everything I need here at home. So I'm blessed to have that. I'm also blessed to have a lot of knowledge about, I don't have formal education in physical therapy or training methods and stuff like that. I'm not a certified personal trainer, but I have an enormous amount of knowledge to the point that since Corona has been going on, actually even before Corona, in cooperation with my surgeon, I've had my own physical therapy routine that I've put together myself in cooperation with my surgeon and a physical therapist at the hospital. But I've been doing that therapy here at home by myself.
Solid.
And as debilitated as I am with this arm, it is at least to the point where there's still hope. I've been able to train it up so that there's still hope that I can get some function back and hopefully less pain.
Yeah.
I can't even put into words how much I hurt constantly. So the next surgery coming up, I'll have probably 2 more surgeries, will be to go in and they're going to take a biopsy and see what's happening. Is there some sort of infection in there that's causing the pain? But she's also going to look around and see what can she do. What can she do to maybe make things less painful and maybe give me a little bit more function?
Flexibility as well, right?
Well, what I do now, my training routine has a lot of cable work. That whole thing of doing seated rows, the cable will then pull that arm forward and ensure that even though I can't activate it myself, at least it's movable.
Now with the cable machine, right? You should be able to adjust it like at waist mid torso level.
Yeah.
Or to whereas you have the handle, right?
Yes.
And going forward with the cable, can you do any lateral movements?
I can pull it in like this. As you see, I can come from an outward position and pull it in. But now I am trying to go outward. Can you see my right arm going out? And I'm trying to do that with my left arm. But because I have no infraspinatus and because that tendon transfer, I can't activate it neurologically. I cannot do this. You can't
activate it. So you can't go nothing of this matter, right? No movement.
Now here I'm doing a lateral raise.
Right.
Here I cannot do that, but I can use my trapezius to bring that arm up somewhat.
Right, to bring up here, but you can't.
I got to lean to the side if I, So basically I have one arm that works, basically.
Right.
So the hope is...
As a personal question, who washes the right side of your body?
I stink on... No.
Hey,
I smell like...
Get some of that. Not the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, but the Johnson & Johnson baby powder, right?
Just throw it up. I tell you, I smell like roses on the left side, but on the right side, I'm on funky ass black man. I'm telling you.
Man, that's almost like the worst, because I experienced that. You know what? I had tennis elbow, dude. I had a freak moment, man. I'm outside trimming the hedges, right? Using the hedge trimmer, electric, and it was a windy day. Stupid of me to do it during a windy day, trying to trim the hedges, because the hedges are like blowing left to right. So anyhow, I'm holding the hedge trimmer like this in my left arm. Dude, I held it too tight to where that static energy went to my elbow. Okay. And that caused me to have this tennis elbow. So, dude, I was in excruciating pain going into the weekend. And you know how it is here where, the hospitals, you have to go to the emergency room, the leg evac, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Oh, get some Paracet, acetaminophen, and you'll be fine. No, motherfucker. It don't work that way. So long story short with that, man, I made an appointment to my doctor, and I had to get this cortisone shot. So, man, homie had a syringe. The syringe was about this long, and the needle was about that long, right? Yep. So he went in through the elbow, and I got the shot, and it didn't work right then, immediately. But I'll say 2 days afterwards, it was a good relief. So that's another thing where these freak moments, accidents that happen, where everyone that's listening, if you're trimming the hedges, or if you're doing something in one arm on the left, if you you kind of have to alternate, right? So that way it doesn't build up to have these static electricity or static force of energy towards the ligaments or your elbow or your knees. Yeah. So as we get older, our ligaments and tendons are not as young anymore.
Well, I can tell you this. Powerlifting, and before that, bodybuilding. When I trained bodybuilding and competed as a bodybuilder, but lifting, training with weights, has played a huge role in keeping me young. Okay, I have this shoulder issue, and I had that operation on my neck, but those operations are not directly traceable to any damage that is done by powerlifting. Right. It's quite the opposite. One thing that my surgeon told me is that it's my training, it's my weightlifting and powerlifting that has kept this from being worse than what it actually is.
So it's been an incentive for you.
Absolutely. So I can't train. Well, I can tell you, leading up to when I set the squat record a couple years ago, because this arm is so bad, it wasn't as bad then as it is now. This was a couple years ago, but it was so bad that I couldn't train squat with a regular straight bar. But what I can do is squat with a safety squat bar. Where it basically just rests high up on your traps and you have the handles in front.
Yep, I saw that bar.
Yeah, so I trained for the 2.5 years before I set that record. I trained exclusively with the safety squat bar. And then before the competition, I had one training session with a straight bar, where I had to, take hold of my hand and put it up there and all that stuff, and then work to get the bar. But I did it. So I set that record with a dead shoulder.
With a dead shoulder, right?
And that's what tells me, to go back to the question about should I quit powerlifting? The fact that I set that record, as damaged as I am, tells me that when we make things better, as good as we can with this shoulder, it'll never be perfect. I'll probably never be able to raise my arm over my head. But when I can get it to the point where it's at least reduced when it comes to pain, I'm going to lift even more. And I'll be 53, 54, and I'm going to lift even more. I'm going to raise that record. That's my mindset right there. I'm so far from finished with powerlifting. I'll never bench heavy again. It's always going to be 25 kilos. That's it. That's my max now.
You never know. It's like, hey, when are you going to be benching today? Don't worry about it.
But that's my mindset.
Don't ask me that question again. What am I going to be squatting? Yeah, okay, let's talk now.
But that's my mindset, is that eventually I'm going to be walking around with less pain so that I can start training heavy again, and I'm going to raise that record. That's my mindset.
That's good. Well, it's as we get older, there are some older powerlifters as well. I think maybe it's a guy from the UK or Britain where he's almost 60 years old and still powerlifting. I can't think of the guy's name.
I have a friend, David Ricks. David Ricks from a neighboring town of mine, actually, in Ohio. He's from Barberton, Ohio. He's 63, I believe. And he's squatting
still going at it.
Squatting over 700 pounds, deadlifting over 700 pounds, benching over 400 pounds, and he's 63 years old. He's a world champion powerlifter.
See that there? I mean, you have the technique, and you have the form, and you have the will and the ability, and the body remembers, and you keep going through it.
Absolutely.
And as long as you are using these safety measures to try to prevent the injury, and also use the equipment, because now, as
you see, I can't even drink. You see, I can't even drink. When I raise this up, I got to raise.
I saw that. It's like a Rambo moment, man. You try to get first blood, last blood. You gotta get through it.
Oh, man.
2 men dead, not my fault.
Oh man.
So no, man. Powerlifting hasn't been a thing of mine. It's the heavy lifting has been. Yeah. I never got into the powerlifting or the bodybuilding thing. I got asked the questions of, hey man, you should try bodybuilding. No, I don't need to get on the diet.
I did that, and it was fun, and it gave me a lot, but nothing beats powerlifting.
You tried bodybuilding. You tried bodybuilding.
I competed in bodybuilding. Yeah, I had a. I'm gonna send you a picture. I don't know if you have your phone beside you, but I'm gonna send you.
Yeah, it's right here. It's chilling.
Let's see. I bodybuilded. I started out with bodybuilding. In fact, I was bodybuilding when I met my friend Ed Cohen, who is the Michael Jordan of powerlifting. He's the all-time best. And actually, it's his wife, Hege, who introduced me to Snoopy, because I met Hege when she moved to Chicago to be with Ed, and Hege started telling me right away about Snoopy. Hege and Snoopy go back to when Snoopy was a kid.
They go back like recliners. Yeah.
There you go. Mm. And so I had met Ed, and then I met Hege, and Hege introduced me to Snoopy. So that's so anyway, so Ed, being the champion powerlifter that he is, and he always used to tell me, and Hege used to tell me too. She was on the national team here in Norway at one point. Hege was, and they used to tell me, John, you should try powerlifting. And this was back in the middle '90s, and I'm like, nah, bodybuilding is where it's at.
Not my thing. Yeah.
So it wasn't until 2014. 2014 is when I started focusing on powerlifting. So I had kind of like an explosive entry into powerlifting, and I'm like, oh man, this is my thing. This is what I should have been doing all along. But
it was your moment. It was your world. It was your world to be a part of. It was my calling. Yeah,
your
calling. Yeah.
There you go. Here comes a picture of my bodybuilding days. That photo was taken in, I cannot remember exactly when. I want to say it was taken in 2002, right as I came here to Norway. Yeah.
Getting it done. Getting it done is 30. You were 34 there?
This was 2002, so I would have been 32 or 33, depends on when in the year it was taken. 32 or 33 years old.
Damn, man, you were jacked, huh?
Yeah, and I got in even better shape than that further along. Even leaner and even bigger.
Of course, because those diet plans, where you have to limit everything, it makes you even more shredded. You had a very good physique, John.
Thank you. Thank you.
You get that big linebacker neck as well. That big linebacker / fullback neck. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, I could easily do the bodybuilding thing, John, but bodybuilding it's not my calling.
It takes more of a commitment. It's too rough to do.
Right, powerlifting now it's not my calling because if I never experienced powerlifting before, if I just jump into it, at this age, I would have to have, in my opinion, probably start a little bit at a younger age,
Well, but again, you never know because you're a big, solid guy. I mean, you've got a physique on you already, and you're just swinging a kettlebell around now. And again,
it's like, what is it, 28 kilo, and it's just like, but I feel it in the joints and also in the wrist because it pops every now and then, and I had a little bit of an EU control moment, with clinics for all that. You sit down in the chair, he goes like, what was that? Okay, good, that got adjusted. So, but, I think now what my focus is on is to keep my blood pressure down because my father, when he was alive, he had high blood pressure. So I keep that down to minimum of my salt intake.
Yeah.
And also maintain the low level of heart disease. So now it's more thinking of the health factor of getting the weight down slightly.
Do you have a concrete goal as far as body weight?
128 kilos, which is, what is that, 275, between 275, 280 pounds. So, my ideal weight when I was way younger was 250 pounds, right? So I don't see myself getting down there anytime soon, unless I starve myself, which I'm not going to do. But my goal at the moment now is to come down to 128 kilos, which is around 270 pounds, and roughly around there.
I'm going to get down to 130 by my next surgery.
Where are you now? Where are you now? If you don't mind me asking.
Around 141, 142. Somewhere around there.
142.
But that's after, like I said, I think I've gone down roughly 10 kilos because I was around 150, 151 around the time of that news piece that was on about 3 weeks ago. So already I've lost about 10 kilos. I guess I'm around let's say 141. And the goal is to get down to 130 by August, September. I don't have a date for my next operation, but it's going to be the end of August, beginning of September. I want to be 130. I want to walk in there, and I want them nurses at Lovisenberg Hospital to be like, "Hey, look at this, brother." That's what I want.
It's like a different man these days, huh? And a Brit, come and see John.
Did you see what I posted? You have some of the fun. I don't know. You don't post too many things that are on the edge, but you send me some things. Did you see the post that I put up last year at my last operation? And it was a picture of a can of Axe body spray. And the caption was, "This is for the lucky nurse who sets my catheter for this operation."
I think I remember along the line somewhere that moment, but not the Axe can.
So can of Axe body spray. This is for the lucky nurse who's going to set my catheter.
Actually, to all you viewers out there, Axe body spray, it does smell quite great. It's a good thing. I used Axe body spray back in college. But going forward, you have so many other scents to smell. But those moments where
I'm over 100, I get over 140 kilos. I need some help with the smells, So Axe body spray, okay?
And hey, I feel your pain when it comes to not being able to use an extremity, dude, because not being able to use your left arm, to its 100 percentile, it's quite of a challenge because you feel handicapped, man.
Well, I am literally handicapped, and they're
not being able to. And it's a good thing, John, that you're not left-handed.
I am.
Right?
I am.
Oh, you are?
Yes. Let me tell you how bad this has been with my shoulder. Of course, it's affected my powerlifting. It got me out of my spot that I had on the Masters national team, American national team. Got me out of that. It's kept me from training properly. It's led to all these operations, which has made me. Well, I allowed it to make me to gain all this weight. It's kept me from being able to, my son's death got in the way of me releasing my album. But now my arm is so bad because now I want to redo some of the songs and stuff like that. I can't play the piano like I want to. I can't play my guitar or bass like I want to.
You're limited, yeah.
Here in a few weeks, I got an invitation to go out on a mini tour this summer for stand-up comedy. I could have made some bank. I could have gotten some exposure, but just the thing, and as you see, when I'm sitting, I have to be resting that arm because just the weight of my arm pulling on my rotator cuff, it's just crazy pain. So I can't stand. Really? I can't stand on the mic for.
Well, how about can you have like a support brace where your arm is elevated that you can wear?
The problem with that
periodically.
The problem with that is again, it's back to this mobility thing. If I were to go around in a sling of some kind, it's gonna, So that's why 4 or 5 days a week, I'm in my home gym, with these cables and letting that cable pull my arm forward in different, and do different rowing movements.
Yeah.
A sling is just going to make things worse.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely, because it will immobilize it, which will then it's going to kill any mobility that I have.
Right.
It's going to.
So the doctor, is this also your physician or either your doctor or
this is the surgeon
recommending to?
Yeah. Again, my physical therapy routine that I have is in cooperation with my surgeon. I have a great team around me. That procedure where they put that Achilles tendon in, that's a new procedure that was created by a surgeon in the States. And my surgeon here in Norway studied under him. She's the only surgeon doing that surgery here in Norway. And guess who the one and only recipient of that surgeon is?
You.
Me. So, so because of the experimental aspect of that, and that I am the only guinea pig to have had that done, I have extremely good follow-up around me, and that they trust me to do this physical therapy and rehab through my own methods. That's quite the honor, that they trust me to do that. But then, of course, everything is checked, double-checked, and followed up.
Let me ask you a question, John. Have you ever, this is a little bit out of your comfort zone here, but have you ever became a you ever thought about doing motivational speaking to other powerlifters?
Yes.
The experiences that you've gone through and that you're going through now of sharing your knowledge.
Yes. My podcast is what it is. Everyone sees what I do with my podcast, but I'm looking to expand it in a lot of different ways. And one of those ways is to have a thread through my podcast that goes towards telling my story through athletics and currently into powerlifting, and telling that story and sharing the ideas, sharing that experience, and then through that again, expanding into a coaching aspect that will actually bring in income besides what the podcast brings in for income. Do you see what I'm saying? I see some potential there, and I've done it small scale for individuals up through the years. But I'm looking to expand it and make it something that I actually promote and push and advertise and open up for more clients through that listening process through my podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because I can see now that this I shouldn't say should have, but I think it would have sparked that motivational speaking for you several years ago.
Yeah.
You know, after you hit that mark
Yeah.
of accomplishing that your goal and for the championships of the power lift.
Yeah.
And I think right after that, that was your moment, or the moment. It still is now, but that was the moment of doing that motivational there.
But see, this goes back to, again, it was Snoopy who kind of pushed me into doing this podcast and putting my thoughts, my feelings, my story out there. Because I guess
kudos to wifey Snoopy.
I'm telling you, she's the best with her tiny little self. I tease her relentlessly, but that's because I love her so much. But she had been after me for quite some time, like I said, to do a podcast where I'm putting my story out there. She's also been after me to write a book and put my story out there. She's been after me to get into radio somehow and get my story out there. So, and I don't want to say I've resisted that, but I guess it wasn't until recently it wasn't until I started this podcast that I saw the value in that. And since I've started the podcast, because again, it started as a therapeutic venture for myself. Now I've opened my eyes wide and I'm seeing a different landscape now through this podcast, that there's a lot of opportunities there. I'm kind of chomping at the bit because I want to say a few things that have happened already. Things that are going to take me further, but I'm holding back a little bit because I want to present it in a way that's optimal. But
correct.
I guess if people see what, the times I've been on the news and on the radio and stuff, it's always been because they're curious about what I'm doing. And
correct.
Not to brag, I'm quite humble in all of this, but I do see opportunity, and I've started to take advantage of the opportunities that this podcast has brought to me now. So it's a blessing. It's an enormous blessing. And that whole thing about motivational speaking, that whole thing about me being out there in a broader capacity outside of my podcast, it's right around the corner, Wiley. I'm just not in a position to be able to say something about it right away.
It's all good. I kind of...
It's coming.
Telepathically,
there you go.
Get that. I know that there's something there because I'm very good sense of things, and I'm fine-tuned as well in things. So I think you have something going on there, and I can read between the lines. Not only that, John, but police departments, they require a lot of consultation, right?
They do.
Consultants to further their training, their education, so that also, being a former police officer, you're living here in Norway, you obviously can speak you're very fluent in the language. Mm. So, and having your former background and also being a part of speaking in regards of the movement and also the injustices of racial barriers that needs to be broken down in several police departments that's globally, to stop the racism shit, and be real with it and exercise your training much better. That they're training much better to where it needs to be exercised professionally in today's society against all races, to be exact.
Amen.
So it needs to be exercised more. So I mean, you're here living in Norway, right?
You know what?
So
there's
why not there is a consultation or either the motivational speaking thing as well for Norway's finest.
There are some opportunities there as well. You are quite the receptive person for all things vibration, because there's also some possibilities there, which will be announced when that
it's strange. We didn't even talk about it. Everyone that's listening, we didn't talk about this. This isn't a setup,
right? Well, and look, I got a lot of criticism from a few people.
Criticism or negative criticism?
Negative. African Americans here in Norway who have criticized who have criticized the validity of my appearances in the national media here, and that hurt me in a way. it's not that I need validation from everybody. No, I don't need that, but I certainly will react when unexpected and what I feel unfounded criticism comes, because to me, there's no effort in staying humble in all of this. There's some big things that are happening for me right now, but I'm still humble because I recognize the blessing. Yes, I'm doing the work to get the recognition I'm getting and to get the opportunities I'm getting. Yes, I'm doing the work, but I'm remaining humble and I'm recognizing the blessing in all of that. But having said that, some pretty amazing things have happened now, quite recently, and some pretty amazing things are on their way because of all of this stuff that's come about. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, yes, I've done the work, so I deserve whatever I've gotten and whatever I'm about to get. Yes, I deserve it. But within all of that, within me doing what I call the work, there's a lot of assistance in the form of motivation and inspiration, mostly from this podcast, from people like you, people who say these positive things, people who inspire me in ways, people who motivate me. You know, you speaking out about your mental health issues at that time, that's inspiring to me. That's motivating to me. That moves me. And that carries me, that carries me further along. So whatever the work I'm doing, I'm not doing it alone. It's being supplemented from people like yourself. And I've said, absolutely. I mean, I had you on because there's something about you. Without me even knowing what it was, I just knew there was something about you that I could learn something from, I could be motivated from, I could be lifted up from something about you. And sure enough, that's exactly what has happened. That's exactly what has happened. So there's my humility. I've been taught by my mother and my grandmother, basically the women in my family. I've been taught to recognize the blessing and to stay humble in the face of success. Because the minute you lose humility, that success can turn to the exact opposite. It can lead to failure. You can't be arrogant in the face of success. You got to stay humble, because it's that humbleness that will keep that door open. And it's the humbleness that will bring more people to you, you know, people like yourself and everybody else who I've ever asked to be on my podcast. So I just wanted to address that whole thing about humbleness and humility and how to react in the face of criticism. And I think the reaction is the one that I've had, which is, okay, that criticism hurt me and it stumbled me up for a little bit, but you got to keep on going down that road. I think unfortunately some Black Americans, whether they're here in Norway or back at home, all too often get touched by jealousy. Mm-hmm. You can't stand by while you see another brother get lifted up. You got to try and pull him back down. Jealousy
and envy.
It's a sad phenomenon. It's a sad phenomenon. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, because when you're successful and doing well, you know, you're always going to have other people of the same race that will knock you down for your accolades or for you succeeding, you know, in life. And you know, it's sad how society and, you know, people in the world and also in society are, you know, succumb to those measures.
Yeah.
You know, when you see someone that came from somewhere, you know, that's trying to make things better for not only himself or herself, but also for other people. You know, it's putting it out there. But people in general are not acceptable to change all the time, right?
Right.
They want things to stick to the same method and pattern. They don't like change.
And I get that because it's easy. I get that.
Yeah.
But this thing with jealousy, this thing with wishing ill will on people who are just trying, you know, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I really don't. I don't know if I'm handling my son's death properly, but I am doing something. I am handling it. You know, it remains to be seen if I'm doing things right, but my intentions are good. And for someone to hate on that is, I don't understand it. I don't understand
it's
it.
Benign.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. But then there's loving brothers like you. But then there's loving brothers like you.
No doubt,
so,
man. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you see the positivity of it, and you continue doing you, right? You continue to express the level of grief based on your son's passing, going on to the afterlife, and telling his story. There's nothing wrong with that,
right? And
nothing at all.
And the issue is I'm trying. I share my grief, and I tell people the reasons for this podcast, and I do that in the hopes that it can help somebody else. Of course, there's a let's call it a selfish element to it, because I'm looking for answers myself. Yes, but I'm also putting it out there in the hopes that it will help somebody else. And people can criticize that if they want to, but for me, it's impossible to understand that type of criticism, because there's nothing but good intentions behind what I'm doing. So
very good, John. Very good. Yeah. Keep paying it forward. You're doing it to the best of your capabilities, and you see your change. So this is your podcast. What you're doing is your avenue of the level of expression to tell people your story first and foremost, your son's story first and foremost, what you experienced in life, in your previous profession, of what you have focused on, and going forward, what you would love to continue, or what you would like to continue focusing on to your listeners, and to other people, and also here locally, what's coming to them.
Yes.
What they're going to experience in the future. So at the moment, we all have a oyster to deliver to the world, right? So as they say, the world is
oyster.
The world is your oyster, right? So that entails, right, what you have to deliver. So it's your calling now to exercise what you have to deliver through your podcast and other avenues outside of your podcast. From a motivational standpoint. So
amen. And that's what it is.
Forward, man.
And amen. And that's what it is. It's a calling. I feel like this is something that I have to do. I couldn't stop if I wanted to now.
No.
I couldn't. I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So
how does the song go? Can't nobody break my stride. Can't nobody slow me down. Oh no, I got to keep on moving.
See, now you forced me down into a lower register. I'm more of a high tenor. But I hung with you there. On the baritone. So, my man Wiley.
It's all good, man. It's all good. So that's what's good. That's what's up.
Listen, I've been doing this with a few of my guests now to close things out. We've been talking almost 3 hours, man. That's great.
I know. I haven't even noticed, man. That's the beauty of having positive conversations.
Absolutely. Dude. But to close things out, what is something you want to leave my viewers and listeners with? What can you say? I mean, you've said a lot of motivational things. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten chills down my arms and back of my neck from things that you've said during this conversation. But if there's one powerful statement that you could make for people to take with them as we close this out.
The one powerful thing that I can express to viewers, your viewers in general, is to live your life peaceful and powerful and positively as much as possible, because life is short. Life is never promised to us tomorrow. Accept things for what they are, accept for who you are as a person, regardless of whatever background, where you come from, going forward, who you meet in your life. So I would say that if you can accept who you are as a person, accept how life will treat you going forward, that means that you have your intentions of where you need to be as a person. So understand that if you have problems that you face as a person, whether if it's financially, or if it's family problems, if it's personal, or if it's mental problems, seek help in everything that you can. Have positive people in your corner. Family comes first always. So be there for them, and 9 times out of 10, they'll be there for you. And this ain't no bullshit. We will always go through struggles in our life, ups and downs in our life. So not everything is going to be peaches and cream. The grass ain't always going to be greener on the other side of the pasture. So it's good to be in tune with life and be in tune with yourself as a person, and live life and love life.
That's some beautiful words from a beautiful and loving brother, Wiley Wiggins, everybody.
No doubt.
Thanks, my friend.
Thank you, man.
Listen,
thank you, John. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me in your podcast. I appreciate the love.
Thank you for coming. I'm a better man for having shared this time with you. So thank you for lifting me forward, lifting me higher, I should say. Just keep on being who you are, Wiley. I know, besides the people watching or listening, I know you're touching people's lives with your openness, with your honesty, and with your humor. And please just keep on doing it. And your humor, by the way, I want to ask you, I almost forgot about this. I wanted to end with you making this statement, but I also have to ask you this. There's one video that you sent me that I watch constantly just to get a laugh. And I can't even...
Which one video was it?
And I can't even put my finger on the comedy element. What is it about that video that makes me laugh? But it's just so dang funny. You sent me a video where you had said you had sent your family to the store so that you made yourself some pancakes and some bacon, and it's almost as if you were saying you planned to get rid of them so that you could make yourself some real food, and just for you. Do you remember that video?
I do remember that video.
Now, I want to ask your permission to take that video clip and post it on this podcast episode so that people can know what I'm talking about. There's something...
Feel free.
Thank you.
So this is what I do. I send the family out grocery shopping, and I make pancakes all to my motherfucking self. And some scrambled eggs and some goddamn bacon. Hot bra.
There is something about that video that it's not really even funny, but it is funny.
Feel free to post it, because you know why? That just shows you how real a person can be when it's quality time that you can have for yourself when the family is away.
Amen.
Every father that's out there knows what I'm talking about. When it's time when you need to make pancakes for yourself or any kind of food that you want to have, that's your delicacy. When the family's not away, you need to do it for yourself.
You know what?
So have that moment. Share it. I don't mind.
You know
Go
what?
for it.
Talk about inspiration. When Snoopy leaves for her night shift tonight, I think I'm going to fire up the griddle. I think I'm going to pull up my grandmother's homemade, it's a secret family recipe for pancakes. I think I'm going to be having pancakes around 11 o'clock p.m. tonight.
Go for it. And have some for me.
Wiley Wiggins, everybody. Listen, everybody who's watching or listening, look at the description of this episode. You'll find a couple of links where you can support me. Your support is not necessary, but it certainly is appreciated. I love you people. I love doing this podcast. I love having guests like Wiley Wiggins. Wiley, I love you, man. You my brother. Thank you.
Love you too, John. Love you too, man. And the love doesn't stop here. It's going to continue going, man. So
we're going to meet up face to face. We're going to give a brotherly hug. We're going to meet face to face. We're going to break bread together, and we're going to laugh, and our families are going to get to meet each other. It's just a matter of time.
When we embrace, I'm gonna mind your shoulder. I'm not gonna do too much damage.
Thank you. With your big ass out here crushing short brothers like me.
It's all good. This hand will meet your hand, and I try not to damage it. It's like, oh, hey man, you gotta stop. People say you gotta stop shaking my hand so hard. It's not me. It's just the hand.
It's just
man.
the hand, man.
Comes with the snack.
Thank you, Wiley. Thank you so much for
John.
this good time. Thank you so much.
It's all good, man. Love you, brother.
All right,
hope
man.
all is well, and wish you mad success going further in the future.
Likewise, man. Thank you so much. Okay.
All right. Talk to you. See you soon.
Bye, everybody. Okay, man.